All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rise of the Mortarchs Season 2 for our second qualifier. Our first qualifier was a couple weeks ago. We had Prussian Prince take that first qualifier, so he has one of the slots. We'll take a look at that little qualifier. So he has the first one. There will be two more qualifiers after this one, and for the remaining slots. So for our current bracket today, we are waiting on one more of the quarterfinals to finish up. They are in their last match, so we are going to start on with Starr and Legatus Leonidas for our first semifinal match. This will be a fun match to get things rolled off, so we're going to switch on over to that as we have all of our lovely picks and bands set up. So we will have Starr is going to be picking first, so he has picked Skaven, Banning, High Elves, and Greenskins. And then Legatus Leonidas has responded with going with Wood Elves. So that'll be a fun DLC matchup for us. Wood Elves definitely have quite a few tools that are going to be a little scary, but so do the Skaven with like the Packmaster, all those Brood Horrors, and the like. So we'll see what both sides have to offer, and we're going to get right on into this match as both sides should be all ready to go. Just letting them know. We'll load right on into our first match of the day. So our first match is going to be on Mortis Waste. Very flat map, very open. So it's probably going to favor the Skaven to an extent, but it's still quite a bit of mobility for both sides to really move around. And the Skaven definitely have some of those tools to really get things moving as well. We're just waiting on our final contestant to ready up. Hopefully, let's give him a little ping, make sure he knows that we're ready to go. And we'll be underway in no time at all. So while we do wait, we can kind of take a quick little look at, or I'll give you a rundown of the bracket so far. We had about 32 contestants today. A nice, good bracket size, but so far, Starr's path to the semifinals. He's been able to take on Pugnaban, Svertasm, and Slayer in the earlier rounds, doing quite well, only dropping one game so far. And Legatus Leonidas has gone against Narim, Suarve, and Iskandar Two-Horned. And he has had a little bit of a closer series leading up to these matches, but both sides are definitely up for some great matches in this semifinal. All right, both sides are loaded on in, and let's get going. All right. Already seeing the Lord on the Wood Elf side, as both sides are going to be loading on in. Should be finishing up with that fairly quickly, and then we'll kind of get a nice little treat on what each side has brought. Both sides are in. Now let's see what they've got. So for the Wood Elves, being led by Legatus Leonidas, we do see very nice little build here. We have lots of Dryads in that front line, one of which is the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart, who do have Frenzy, and they do have their Frostbite attacks as well to kind of slow things down. And then we have some Deepwood Scouts with the Swift Shiver Shards, and some mobility with the Glade Riders and some Wild Riders. For the Lord, we do have Durthu, and he's going to be bringing Sword of Daith, Transformation of Kadan, and that's going to be it for him, while we also have Ariel as well. She's going to be Unbreakable, and for her spells, she's going to be bringing Apotheosis for a little bit of heals, Soul Stealer, as well as Berry Wine to give a nice little bound regrowth that also gives 100% vigor. So very good stuff on that side, and those two combos is going to be really, really punishing with Soul Stealer and Sword of Daith. Now for the Skaven, they do have some Skaven slaves up in that front. We also do just have a regular Brood Horde. Not going to be seeing any Packmaster or Throt on that particular one. And then we just have some Clan Rats in the back. Another Brood Horde for that nice mobility and speed. And then for the Lords and Heroes, it looks like we do have a double Assassin going to be coming on in. And we're going to kind of take a quick little look at their abilities. We have the Assassin's Trophy. Don't have any Rival Hide Talismans on. That's usually a very good ability. You often will see them bringing. We do have a couple of Poison Wind Mortars, and we have Lord Skrolk going to be bringing the, I believe that is, I'm not too familiar with the icons. It is the Liber Bubonicus, so it causes damage to a single combatant, so really looking to burst down those Wood Elf forces. And then we have just some Eshin Triads in the rear to kind of protect against any sneaky vanguards. But that is going to be all for our armies, as both sides are going to be advancing one another, and off to the races they shall go. Both of the Poison Wind Mortars are already firing in, trying to dodge them, but these Dryads are going to get clipped, getting that Poison Wind effect over the course of a few seconds here, taking some additional damage, and the Swift River Shards are going to be firing in, trying to go for Skrolk. And he's going to get a little bit summons out, kind of slow down the approach of the Wood Elves here, and potentially try and get on top of these Deep Wood Scouts, as there isn't really anything to really keep them away. So those Deep Wood Scouts are going to be pushed back, at least for the time being. And we have these units here just taking a ton of damage right now. These Skaven Slaves getting routed off very, very quickly, but the Assassin quick onto the target that it wants to go for, looking to get after Ariel. But however, he is getting trapped really kind of unfortunately in all these Dryads, and with Durthu there as well, that Assassin is quickly going to be terror routed off the field, and he is going to be pulling out very, very quickly in indeed. He isn't going to be breaking just yet, so he should be back to the field in no time at all. But all that point, that shot's right in front of him, just taking so much damage, and now he probably is going to be routing right off those charges there. But the rest of the engagements, actually probably going fairly well for the Skaven initially on the front line, breaking a lot of the Dryads and these Wild Riders as well. But losing the Assassin is going to be very important, because they need to deal with Ariel and Durthu together, and it's going to be hard when you're losing them so quickly. And this other Assassin getting terrified as well, taking a lot of damage from Durthu. Not necessarily the target that he wants to be going after, as that Feral Manticore summon is going to be trying to go after Lord Skrolk. That Brood Horror at least keeping it away for the time being, rampaging it, keeping it in the rest of the infantry, allowing Skrolk to kind of pull out of that engagement. But balance power so still in the Skaven's favor, despite the fact that the Skaven have really taken a ton of damage in their all three of their hero characters for that matter. But the Poison Wind Mortars are doing so much work so far. Triple chevrons apiece right now. I'm not really sure how much they started with, but they've been doing a lot of damage so far. Haven't been pressured by the Wood Elves, and I think that might be a very dangerous thing for them if they're not able to shut these down, allowing them to fire off all their ammo. All of their archers and all their support is just going to melt away very, very quickly. As the Clan Vulcan Tail Slasher is getting a nice pin into these Wraiths of the Frozen Heart, keeping these archers nice and blobbed up around that Assassin. Perfect target for those Poison Wind Mortars if they want to fire that way. But Skrolk is getting mixed in with Durthu, and if the Skaven want to keep that advantage that they have so far, they need to keep their heroes away from Durthu and just kind of drag him down through the ground, as pretty much all of the rest of the Wood Elf infantry is just getting bled away by those Poison Wind Mortars and just the mass of Skaven troops so far. And it is going to be a very interesting thing. So I guess according to Ben, the chevrons on the mortars are bugged, so that'll be something to look at a later time. But so far, yeah, things not looking so hot. Yeah, there's definitely some very big targets that Warplock Jezzails would have done quite well against. But Sword of Daith, or actually Soul Stealer, are going to be going down, seeing that little purple haze around them, going down on all of these troops, hitting the Poison Wind Mortars and a lot of the Eshin Triads. But Ariel and Durthu both very, very healthy. You can't say so much about the rest of the Wood Elf troops, though, as everything's pretty much done and dusted. Poison Wind Mortars, though, with all of the troops gone, they're pretty much used up all of their value. There's only like a few things left that they can shoot at. I don't think they even want to bother trying to shoot at Durthu or Ariel, unless they really are into some of that friendly fire that the Skaven are so fond of. But it does look like these units are going to be getting dragged down, especially those two Brood Horrors. I think are going to be very helpful in dealing with all these units, all these single entities. The Assassin is going to be terrified and routed off and is very, very low on health. Probably not going to be able to be contributing anymore for the rest of the battle. The Frozen Hearts getting pushed off, as are the last of the ranged troops. Not really a whole lot of support going to be coming for Durthu and Ariel in this late game. And so unless they can hard carry here to Skaven, all they have to do is be a little bit careful about blobbing up right here. They just need to make sure that they don't commit everything to this fight. A massive terror route or potentially a Soul Stealer with that Sword of Death. You just need to kind of avoid all the damage that can go that way. Otherwise, Lord Scroll just needs to kind of pretty much hang back, wait. If he has another Liber Bubonicus charge, he just needs to wait and use that. But I don't know if he does. He'd probably use at least 1 or 2 of them so far. But things definitely not looking so great for the Wood Elves in this late stage. Ariel just on her last slivers of health. And once she does go down, that is going to be it for the Unbreakable units for the Wood Elves, and eventually Durthu's just going to get dragged down. He is doing quite a bit of damage to this Brood Horror, though. I think that Brood Horror just kind of needs to be a little bit more... They could easily be cycling in and out of this engagement right now, while the rest of the... Okay, and I thought for some reason Durthu just disappeared on me for a second, but the Wood Elves do concede that fight as the Skaven just racking up the value with their Poison Wind Mortars, getting almost 2,000 on this one, and that is insane. 15 and 2,000 between just those 2 units. Brood Horror getting 1,200 a piece as well, so get a lot of value coming their way. We also had some Gutter Runners on top of that. The Assassins really didn't do a whole lot. They got beat down by Durthu pretty early on. Skrulk did decent work himself. Ariel, kind of a little lackluster. I think Legatus was definitely hoping for a little bit more out of her. And otherwise, yeah, that front line, everything that the Wood Elves have just got broken so quickly by those Poison Winds, and that was pretty much what left them with no support in that late game. But yeah, that's going to be our first match. So now we'll get on into our second. So Legatus is going to start right up picking Empire, banning the Dawi and the Wood Elves. So we'll update our picks and bans for that. So we'll be seeing the Empire banning Dawi and Wood Elves. And we will have, actually, Starr is going to be responding with a Dark Elf pick. So a fairly even matchup here between these two factions. Actually a little interesting seeing the Empire banning the Wood Elves. Definitely before this patch, it was pretty favored for the Empire, but now, again, especially with all the new tools, probably a little bit more towards the even, if not a little bit Wood Elf favored, although I have not too experienced in that particular matchup, so I'm sure Legatus definitely fears what the Wood Elves have been able to do so far and is trying to avoid them at all costs. Yeah, with the Wood Elves, David, I think it was almost going a little, I mean, to an extent too wide, where the Ariel and Durthu together was really a counter or to aid a blobbing style of play, where you had Sword of Death and the Soul Stealer, which as long as the Skaven were able to really just spread out and make sure that not a whole lot of units ever stacked up on those 2 units, then they really weren't going to have much to fear in terms of that regard. And the Skaven played that really well. Just, I mean, the Poison Wind Mortars, 2 of them especially, just nuked everything down, and even Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats is more than up to the task of dealing with very weakened Dryads and Deepwood Scouts on top of that. And against Skaven, I do think Drika does have some potential because of her summons on top of that. She's cheap, small target. The Assassins do quite well against her, so that may have been what the 2 Assassins were for on the Skaven side, because Drika doesn't really have much good for escaping. She does have her summons, and kind of to contend with the summons that the Skaven can bring can be quite helpful. Oh, map. Forgot about that. Map is going to be Schwarzhofen. And both sides are going to be ready to go, so we'll be able to get right on into things for our second battle. We will update the score as well, as Starr did take that first match. So now we're loading on in. All right, both sides have loaded into this match. Going to be a very even fight in my experience. Both sides have a lot of tools that can really deal effectively with one another. For the Empire, led by Legatus Leonidas, we do have Karl Franz up in the sky, up on his Griffin. He is going to be bringing, of course, Galmaraz and the Reichling Runefang, and he will be supported by a Jade Wizard, bringing Earthblood and Regrowth. And then on top of that, we have a lot of mobility from the Empire, as we have Outriders. So we have 3 Outriders by the looks of things, and it looks like we're going to have a couple of Pistoliers in the front with their 360 fire, and we have 1 unit of Demigryph Knights and 2 units of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who do fire. Kind of be good against any of the regenerating, potentially Hydras, or I believe the Cryptus also might have regen as well. Otherwise, the Demis are quite a fearsome foe indeed. For the infantry, it's just going to be some spearmen with the Sigmar Sons ROR, nice unbreakable unit, just holding things down to allow all the skirmishers to do the job for them. Well, thanks for joining, David, and we'll catch you later then. Enjoy your dinner. For the Dark Elves, though, we do have the Witch Elves, and we have some Sisters of Slaughter in that front line as well, going to be supported by some Bleak Swords. We, of course, have Malekith up on Seraphon. He is going to bring in just... Actually, we have a few things here, as he has the Power of Darkness, and he has Soul Stealer on top of his Bound Gaze of Malice. And in the trees, we do have some Knights of the Ebon Claw with some Cold One Knights, and some other Dark Riders with repeater crossbows to assist in that skirmishers, as well as the Slaanesh Harvesters, who do have a bound Soul Stealer on top of that, and it's a more Cold One Knights. But a lot of skirmish for the Empire, I think, is going to definitely out-skirmish anything that the Dark Elves have here, and as long as Legatus is going to be able to control his skirmishers well, he should have a very definitive advantage here, because he has all the tools necessary to follow up any potential charges into his skirmishers, and his skirmishers far outgun this one repeater crossbow, as pretty much all the other forces are going to be stuck chasing and taking a lot of damage in the meantime. These Slaanesh Harvesters getting kind of in that position where they can easily get countercharged by these Knights of Blazing Sun, which is exactly what they're going to be trying to do, and they will pull back very, very quickly. Well played, but they kind of get a little caught up as both sides kind of feign against one another. But yeah, those Slaanesh Harvesters took a fair amount of damage from those Pistoliers, and they don't want to be getting too low in health themselves. We're going to be looking to probably top up on a nice juicy Soul Stealer, as we do have one going down right now. It's going to be catching the Demigryph Knights, and it does catch these Knights of the Blazing Sun, just barely still in range, and of course it does catch that Jade Wizard. But a little healing going to be going to these Knights of the Blazing Sun. I think that was meant to be going on to these, but it does click on the wrong unit there, so a little wasted Winds of Magic for the Empire. And Malekith is going to be chasing after Karl Franz, but Karl Franz is going to be content with just kind of running around right now, so that all of these skirmishers will just be able to fire away at these Dark Elf forces as they approach. But a nice charge here, though, by the Cold One Knights and the Slaanesh Harvesters, catching these Demigryph Knights and these Pistoliers or Outriders a little flat-footed, and they are doing a ton of damage to these Outriders, quickly able to break them, breaking actually 2 units of Outriders, and they are very close to that white line, and losing those Outriders with so much ammo on them is going to be very helpful for the Dark Elves and very punishing for the Empire. And another Soul Stealer catching more of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Oh, they do have a little bit of magic resist, so they will be able to resist that damage a bit, and Karl Franz going to be diving down onto Malekith. He does have he has Galmaraz popped, and he also has a Regrowth as well. Just gonna pop that off. Otherwise, so far, yeah, all these Pistoliers continue firing. Nice Gaze of Malice, though, is going to be clipping these Pistoliers, but they are able to get out, and actually the charge did get kind of canceled there by Malekith. I think he did get out of range, causing that to falter. But now that all of the Dark Elves are really collapsing upon the Empire forces, the Dark Elves are definitely going to have the advantage now that all of these Pistoliers and Outriders are being caught in melee, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun and Demis really haven't gotten the best of charges in response, and all of these Soul Stealers are really going to help the cause of the Dark Elves in these cav fights as another one goes down, catching a lot of very expensive units. Demis, both of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, and a lot of damage, but an Earthblood's going to be going down in response to that. Try and heal things up, but these Demis, they are getting so critically low, and they are so close to routing. Losing them is going to be pretty much catastrophic at this point, because even these Dark Riders with repeater crossbows have not been able to be pushed off the field. And despite my initial thoughts of the Dark Elves being a little bit at a disadvantage with the builds, they've been able to have all of the really good engagements, keeping the Empire on the back foot, and keeping all of their Outriders and Knights of Blazing Sun very well pressured, as both of the Demis and these Knights of Blazing Sun going to be routing there on very, very low health. And Karl Franz is going to have to try and deal with Malekith now, or he's going to be losing that mobility and support. The Jade Wizard does get routed off. He has had a lot of healing going the way of Karl Franz. I did see a regrowth. There's been a few Earthbloods going on, but there's still probably going to be some magic and some healing to be done to Karl Franz here. But the Pistoliers, or Outriders, actually going to be doing a number to Malekith, though Malekith does have the advantage of the Knights of the Ebon Claw support, and Karl Franz going to get completely surrounded here, and I don't think Karl Franz is going to be escaping this fight, and it does look like the Dark Elves are going to be winning, and that is going to be, I think, it for the Empire here. So yeah, Blackthorn, you're saying that this could be a little bit of a hard for the skirmishers. There's still enough space here to kind of move around. The only problem with that is there's not enough space to back up behind your lines as much as some maps. But otherwise, yeah, Dark Elf's going to be taking it here. And Karl Franz routing. The only thing left was the Sons of Sigmar, and that is going to be it for Legatus Leonidas, as Starr does take the series 2-0. Take a look at the units as well. Malekith racking up the value, 3,400. Pretty much all of that was on Karl Franz and on some of the very key targets like the Demigryph Knights, who just did very lackluster. Both of the Knights of Blazing Sun as well. And Outriders, one of the units didn't do so well, but the other units, were able to pay for themselves, but I think Legatus was still expecting a lot more out of them. Pistoliers, yeah, it's just the melee cavalry just wasn't up for the task, or they just didn't get the right charges in that battle. But a good game. Sinesh's Harvesters racking up the value, Knights of Ebon Claw as well, and then you can see that's kind of where the melee cavalry just trumped the melee of the Empire, and that is pretty much what kind of decided that game. Nothing else really stood out there. Oh, and both sides have backed out, so yeah, Starr will advance in the bracket to the final. And now we'll call on in our other contenders. So it does look like Chosen One did take the other spot, so he will be playing Ulrich Rahl now. So I'll send a little ping for them to join on in. Update the bracket. All right. Now just wait for these next contenders to head on in. Look at chat a bit. I think, yeah, Cameron Frey with the Bleak Swords I think they can do better than they definitely do better than they used to. A lot of the Dark Elf infantry got that buff. It's it's not maybe something you would like notice, like, oh, all of a sudden these bleak swords are like really helping you win, carrying the game. Is going to be like kind of small little bits here and there. They'll hold a little longer, do a little bit more damage, kind of more perform up to their cost, and so they're not just going to be essentially limp noodles in a fight anymore. They'll be actually able to do at least a little bit of something here. Alright, still waiting on both contestants to hop on in. And I'm going to send an invite over to Ulrich, and I don't know if I have chosen one or not. Yeah, I don't see chosen one on my list, so we'll send him a little message, see if, because he might not be able to see the lobby right now. In the meantime, we'll get the map set. We do have Ulrich joining us. And just waiting on chosen one. Okay, so he can't see the lobby. I'll quick add him on Steam. And there we are. So we have both contestants now in the lobby. Yeah, chosen one. He definitely plays a lot of Skaven, is kind of his main there. So that's going to be probably his scariest faction in my experience. He does quite well with them. Though in the Spoken Skaven style, the last week here, he did a lot better with kind of the other factions, even though Skaven is really his main. Alright, so yeah, chosen one will have first picks. Alright, just waiting on contestants to kind of make their choices for the matchup. I'm expecting to see Skaven at some point for Chosen One, as he actually is going to be leading with Skaven. He's going to be banning Beastmen and Norska. And we'll see just what Ulrich decides to go with. So we'll update our picks and bans here. Banning Beastmen and Norska. And Ulrich's going to be responding with Wood Elves here. So we'll see if this matchup, same map, same matchup, we'll see if this is going to turn in the favor of the Wood Elves this time, or if the Skaven are going to reign supreme once again against those pesky little Wood Elves. Yes, Blackthorn. Usually these tournaments will take place on Sunday. It's kind of the best time for these formats because it's my son Herbert Walker. He hosts his Fresh Recruit League on Sundays, and that usually has the least amount of crossover versus his Saturday league. And usually other tournaments such as like the ECL is going to be going on usually Saturday or potentially Friday, Thursday time period. So they're not often on Sundays, and it's usually the best time to fit things in. I know last season we did have a couple on Friday, and we'll see if that's kind of going to be the same thing. Looks like Ulrich is going to be ready on top of things. And Gatto, yes, the Norskin, it's definitely better for the Skaven now. It's still maybe a little bit Norska favored. They still have a lot of tools to deal with things, but the new mobility that the Skaven have definitely makes that matchup better for them. Berserkers against the single entities, maybe not so much, but they have a lot of other tools. Like I like taking Throg. There's Javelins, of course, which just do a ton of damage to like Hell Pits and the like, and you have Skin Wolves, which are always a good against all of the SEMs there. But the new mobility that the Skaven have definitely helps that matchup for the Skaven. And yeah, Poison Wind Mortars are pretty much, again, what Skaven use to deal with a lot of the infantry, the other Javs. But I've definitely seen, especially if you saw the faction war the other day with Hadries against myself, the mass amount of dogs that he brought did quite a number on me, and even those Poison Wind Mortars as well, which pretty much always pay for themselves in almost every single matchup I've seen, even if they get shut down early. Well, yeah, since the Wolf Rats have poison, it really helps them trade upwards into most units. And let's see, he banned Beastman and Norska. There we go. Well, both sides are ready, so let's get right on into this. Yeah, the Throt combo with his summon and his anti-large bonus that he gives in an AoE has definitely made bringing a Mammoth very risky against the Skaven, and it always has been to an extent because they can do have a lot of range tools that can really shoot them down. That's why I generally like taking Throg, because he can regen through most of that damage. Well, let's switch on over to the scene here as both armies have just loaded on in. And for the Wood Elves, looking kind of similar here for the front line, because we do have Dryads across that front line, and we have some Glade Riders with spears for some nice cheap mobility, and I do like that here because there's 4 units of those. We do have the ROR Stag Knights, as they do have a nice ethereal, so unless the Skaven invested heavily into bringing magic damage, they're going to have free reign for a lot of the battlefield, and we have double Glade Captains as well. It's actually not a unit that I have seen brought for in a multiplayer match. They have Dance of Loic, which gives a +5 melee defense, and they have the Horn of Isha, which is a +5 melee attack and reload skill. So definitely a nice little bit of AoE buffs that they both have to kind of assist those cavalry units as they are both on horse. We have a Spellweaver of Life going to be bringing just Earthblood, and I am not familiar with that ability that is also there. And the Channeling Staff, so just -15 ability recharge. For the range department, we do have Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts for a little bit of fire damage against any of the regenerating units that Clan Molder can often be bringing. And that's going to be it for the Wood Elves here. Let's take a look at what the Skaven have. So we do have Poison Wind Globadiers who do magic damage. So as long as they do stay alive and safe, those great Lost Sylvan Knights are going to need to be very, very careful about where they engage. We also have a pair of Assassins as well with Rylehide Talisman and Assassin's Trophy. And we have Lord Skrulk with Liruhubanicus as well as the Rod of Corruption to really counter that blob as well. Front line's going to be Clan Rat Spears with some Skaven Slaves mixed in, pretty standard stuff. We do have the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers who do fire damage, good against those Dryads. We have a pair of Rat Ogres and a unit of Nanny Boo Boo Sharpshooters, Warp Block Giselles. As much as their shots may look like it, they do not do poison or magic damage. We do have some Wolf Rats with poison to help slow things down, and a Hell Pit as well to anchor that middle ground, but no of the Poison Wind Mortars, surprisingly enough. But both armies are going to be going advancing here. Skaven definitely going to be looking to push up a little bit here. They don't have that long range that the mortars usually give them, but they do have the Giselle, so they will be able to do some good damage, I guess, on the approach. But they don't have any really big targets to shoot at. They do have some of the Glade Riders, and the Lost Sylvan Knights will be able to tank that damage fairly well, since they do have a nice bit of physical resist on top of things. So the Wood Elf's going to try and circle around the back, but the Skaven have a ton of stuff all surrounding here that are going to be able to hold things back. The Globadiers getting some nice shots off into the Dryads as they approach, getting that Poison Wind on top of them, as they should be able to start switching targets. They need to be very focused on these Lost Sylvan Knights, because that is their keen target here. They need to deal with those, and the Glade Guard are going to be focusing on those Poison Wind Globadiers, getting them off the field, getting rid of that magic damage, and allowing these Sylvan Knights to really run rampant in the back lines. As you can see, these Nanny Boo Boo Sharpshooters have been collapsed upon by the Glade Riders, really shutting down that powerful range, and that's very expensive, as all of these Spear Riders just getting in to the stuff that counts right now. These Poison Wind Globadiers so quickly pushed off the field, and that's kind of why you generally want those Poison Wind Mortars, because they can trade into those archers a lot easier than those Globadiers. They can stay a little bit farther back and can stay a little bit more safe than other units, because those Globadiers, they can't really return fire. Now the center blob here, we do have the Hell Pit engaging with both of the Glade Captains, who are going to be cycling in and out, and the Assassin is on top doing some nice damage though. But these Lost Sylvan Knights are pretty much at full health right now, as they are taking very, very little damage. We do have the Liber Bubonicus is going down on top of them, and you can just see that health drop so quickly with that, as they took pretty much half their damage from that one Liber, and that is very, very damaging for those Sylvan Knights. So I guess instead, losing those Globadiers, not necessarily the worst thing in the world, since that Liber Bubonicus was able to do so much damage to them, and there is going to be another one up the sleeve, but they need to pull back and get that healing from that Spellsinger. But Lord Scroll doing a number, actually almost starting to waver these units of Sylvan Knights. And yeah, things looking still pretty even right now. We do have a lot of returning Skaven units almost going off the back of the map, but able to return before that happens. Though all this mobility, these units are very spread out, especially getting into these Poison Wind Mortars. Now these Sylvan Knights are going to disengage to try and do just that. And this Spellsinger of Life, I don't think she's going to want to be where she's at right now, surrounded by Rat Ogres, as we do also have the double Assassins here as well, and can very quickly burst down that Spellsinger with a pair of them, especially if she does get stuck in these Rat Ogres, though she is just on the verge of escaping. And that Hell Pit, though, taking a lot of fire from those Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts, as it is getting whittled down bit by bit. Nanny Boo Boo Sharpshooters getting caught out by the Spear Riders, and away goes those Poison Wind Mortars in the rear. And now these the Lost Sylvan Knights getting a nice little surround off onto this Hell Pit Abomination, as the Assassin trying to chase down the Spellsinger, though that will not be able to happen as she is up on her horse, so she does have that speed advantage there. As the last Sylvan Knights trying to come in, getting a nice little regrowth on all these units, healing them up, trying to deal as much damage as they can to these Assassins, and I think pretty much at this point they're going to have to just bog them down. As you look in the back here, the Skaven have gotten onto some of the range units with their dogs, some of these Plague Monks as well in the back, getting on top of the Dryads, but the mobility for the Wood Elves, I think, is what's going to be able to carry the day for them, as they are being able to whittle down this Hell Pit bit by bit as it does route, and there wasn't any way to really either, without getting that Too Horrible to Die proc, you don't have the Remoldered that Throt has to really keep him nice and healthy, but he does get one of the Too Horrible to Die, so a nice little bit of health back, but I don't think these Sylvan Knights are going to let that happen, should be able to escort that Hell Pit right off the field, as long as that Hell Pit doesn't take too odd of a path here, though all of the Wood Elf units have kind of decided to go for other targets here. It might very well allow that Hell Pit to get back into the fight here, as it is trying to be rescued by these Rat Ogres. Now these Glade Captains are realizing that they need to chase this thing off, make sure it stays away, and a charge into these Rat Ogres might be enough to break it. But here comes those Sylvan Knights. Still leaving that Hell Pit alone for a bit might be enough for it to come back. Otherwise, Lord Skrulk with his Rod of Corruption draining down these 2 units of Dryads, trying to reduce the support that the Wood Elves do have here. But they still have a ton of ammunition left on the Glade Guard, and I think that's going to be there's nothing left for the Skaven to really shut these guys down. The rats have been taken out. The Hell Pit has finally gone down. It got its Skaven Slave summon off, but I mean, all the Wood Elves have to do is keep away from that. The Skaven do have all 3 of their characters left. They have their 2 Assassins and Lord Skrulk, and these Lost Sylvan Knights do have the second Leader Bubonicus going down, and I think that might just kill them outright here, as they're taking a ton of damage with both levers going their way. And yeah, they're going to be wavering here, trying to save them with an Earthblood, though they only have 2 models left, and I don't think they're going to survive. I mean, look at all these Sylvan Knights dotting this field from that Leader Bubonicus. They just got absolutely melted by that unit there. So that, David, that summon of Clan Rat Spears, that's what happens when the Hell Pit does go, die, is it gets that summon off of Clan Rat Spears. So it's either can get It's Too Horrible to Die, or it can get that summon. And I have seen that summon happen right when it routes off the map, so that is an interesting little thing. I'm not sure if it's supposed to do that when it goes off the field, but I have seen that happen on multiple occasions. Yeah, at this point, I mean, both of these Glade Captains themselves, all they have to do is just pretty much go in different directions here and slowly whittle down these Assassins bit by bit. Because, I mean, the Assassins and Skrulk, they're just going to get slowly dragged down by all of these units. You have all these Glade Guards, the Starfire Shafts, and you still have plenty of Dryads left. And all these shots from these Glade Captains just going to slowly pluck away bit by bit. Lord Skrulk apparently does have some summons left, getting a Clan Rat here, trying to get getting these guys down, as he does have the Rival High Talisman down, but I mean, the mobility left for the Wood Elves, I just don't think the Skaven have any way that they can really deal with it. They have some units on the very far sides of the map, but having both of these characters on their stags, I think it's going to be game, set, and match for this first one here. So a few more shots from these Glade Guard, finishing off some of the chaff units here. This is some of the Clan Rats, and the Glade Captain is plucking away at this Assassin, routing that one off. And now it is just down to 1 Assassin and Skrulk, and I think even just in melee, these 2 Glade Captains could probably handle those 2, as they are trying to escort these Dryads away, but there's still tons of units still left. And I think actually the ammo from these Glade Guard would probably be best used at pushing off like the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers and these Clan Rat Spears, instead of just shooting into Summons and Skrulk, and just let their 2 Glade Captains deal with those single entities. Yeah, only a matter of time at this point. I don't think there is any way that just these 2 little Skavens are going to be able to hold things off. The Spell Singer able to, or almost rout off these Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers, as these Glade Guard are going to close in for that final kill, getting some nice charges in. But another summon going to be coming in from Skrulk, trying to save a lost cause, I think. It is going to be Plague Monks this time. But again, it's just only a matter of time, I think, before Lord Skrulk slowly gets whittled down, though he does get a nice Rod of Corruption off, able to drain down these Glade Guard bit by bit. And once the Assassin is pretty much out of the picture, these Glade Captains will have pretty much nothing to worry about in the form of Skrulk. And yeah, again, only a matter of time. But Chosen One refusing to give in, as he will fight to the bitter end, as yeah, all the support is now gone, though these summons are slowly whittling down the support of the Dryads and the Glade Guard bit by bit, as these Overfall is slowly feeding them in one at a time, but they are getting peeled off. So if there is enough Winds of Magic left for Skrulk, it might be possible, I say that very lightly, it might be possible for them to wear down enough of the infantry support to force these Glade Captains into melee, and I don't think that's gonna... But away goes Skrulk, and that is going to be army losses. So summons just not going to be enough to save the Skaven there. As we'll take a quick little look at the after-battle report, but Ulrich Rahl will take the first game here. As we'll update the scorecard as well. And let's take a look at those Glade Captains, only getting 1,300 and 1,100 for the two of them. But it's just that they were there and they like him, and they had a ton of ammunition left as well. They had plenty to spare. Those Sylvan Knights, they did get 1,500 in value, but Lord Skrulk from those two Liber Buonicuses is going to have a ton of value. Like, he had 2,400, and that's pretty much just from the two Liber Buonicuses on those Great Stag Knights. That is so much damage going their way. And even the two Assassins themselves getting about 1,200 apiece. A lot of damage on some of these units here. Otherwise, I can't really imagine anything else really did all too well for the Skaven besides their characters. Everything got shut down so quickly, though those Wolf Rats with poison racking up the value, getting 1,200. They have a gold chevron even. But yeah, Rat Ogres, Hell Pit, yeah, they just really didn't do a whole lot there. While the Glade Guard did a ton of work, almost getting 1,000 apiece. And just the mass mobility just really trumped the Skaven there. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the Glade Captain's cost there. I know Dactor's here, so I'm sure he knows the costs on those. But a very good first match, and we will be getting into the next one. All right. So Ulrich Rahl, for his picks and bans, he is going to be going with Bretonnia. Definitely might be his strongest faction there. I know he is quite scary with it. So we'll update our picks and bans on the screen. So he is going Bretonnia, and he is going to be banning Lizardmen and Dwarves. Oops, the wrong one there. And we'll see just what Chosen One's going to respond with. Well, Skrulk is pretty much there for his Liber Buonicus, Rod of Corruption, and all of his summons. And the Assassins were there really to clear out the characters. And with the two Glade Captains on horseback, they just couldn't ever get onto anything. Though they did get quite a bit of value. It was just the Skaven characters that got all the value for Chosen One in that match. I think definitely having the Poison Wind Mortars may have been a nice little bonus there. Yes, David. Yeah, definitely. I really do like all the Razer gear. I think like I have my speakers, my keyboard, my mouse is all Razer. So yeah, I played Ulrich earlier today as the Dowie against Bretonnia, and I don't think he wants a repeat of that matchup here. So definitely going to be quickly banning that. And it does look like Chosen One might be going with Chaos. And it's a fairly decent choice to pick into Bretonnia. They have a lot of good tools to deal with things. They have, like, for example, Archaon can really deal a lot of damage to the Fae, who is usually very hard to deal with. I mean, his insane weapon damage is so insane. It's like, even with all the resistances that the Fae has. But maybe Empire here, so we're just going to see which one's probably just looking through some builds to kind of see which one he likes to use against Ulrich. Yeah, the Assassins definitely did quite well, especially when they're pretty much all the Skaven characters are pretty cheap for the most part, unless you like put them on like a Plague Furnace or something like that. Then they start getting a little bit more expensive, but still not quite as spendy as most factions have their lords and heroes. Oh, so Chosen One going to be countering with Bretonia. So it's going to be a Bretonia mirror match. Just I guess he doesn't feel very confident with anything other than a mirror. So it's going to be Bretonia versus Bretonia. I guess it's going to be a very cav heavy fight here with poison archers. You might see a couple trebs as well, but I think it's going to be Fae, double paladins, potentially Goat Trick, but I think it's going to be double paladins with Guardian. Yeah, like the Rival High Talisman, it's minus 40 melee attack in an AoE. A lot of units don't even have 40 melee attack. So when you're looking to do some nice trading, that does quite well at pretty much making sure another Lord or Hero isn't going to be able to do anything back to you. So Ulrich Band, Lizardmen, and Dwarves. All right. All right. Yeah, it's going to be something else. I mean, mirrors, there's some pretty boring mirrors that you can have. I think Bretonia is probably one of the better ones just because, yes, they do have a lot of, like, they have the Fae who can go against the Blob, but they don't have a lot else that can contribute to that. It's pretty much just blobbing the cav engagements. And both sides are going to be looking to get that charge, and whoever gets the charge is going to have that leg up in that engagement, and you have like Chalice of Potions to punish that in return, and the Fae, of course, draining it down. But when both sides are draining, it's kind of a wash on both sides, so it's just a little bit of extra damage being taken by everyone. Well, not necessarily Papa Palpatine. Oh, VC mirror PTSD. But yeah, the trebuchets. I mean, I can see this going like a few different ways. If you have like a bunch of trebs against like no trebs, or even like if you have more trebs on the other side, if both sides bring them, then yes, I think the trebuchets can really decide who wins that. But if one side brings it and the other doesn't, it's just going to be pulling them in. Depending on how well they shoot, because then if you have a bunch of trebs and the other side doesn't, that gives them a lot of tools, like a lot of mobility tools to really shut down what you've brought. So we'll see how this is going to shake out. If they go treb bill, I mean, both sides are going to have that little bit of a hill, so both sides could have that elevated advantage if they can pull the other side to them. So it's going to be a little interesting, but pretty much going to be expecting Fae both sides, double paladin, quest ignites. Might see some Grail Guardians, but I'm not too familiar with the best choices for this matchup. Alright, just waiting on Ulrich now, and then we'll get in to game 2 of the series, and then if Chosen One wins this, we'll go to game 3, and then if Ulrich wins it, then we'll be off to the finals to face Starr. Yeah, Alacrity, I can agree there, because Lewin has his Sword of Corone, which is a nice AoE debuff to really help that cav engagement, while the Fae does that drain. So, I mean, both sides, it's just hard to say which side will necessarily give you the advantage. And so yeah, when you lower the armor, you just pretty much deal a ton more damage to him. And when you have Lewin, going to be able to do more damage to the Fae. When if you both bring the Fae, pretty much the Fae is going to be surviving until most of the match there. Yeah, unless one of these sides decides to bring like 9 chevron men-at-arms with pole arms or something like that. But both sides are ready to go, so we'll load on in and see what fun both of these sides have cooked up for us. Alright, switch on over to the game here. Alright, let's see what we've got, and lots of cav for Ulrich here. So he has 4 peasants, but he hasn't brought any peasant bowmen. And that, ooh, I don't know about that choice though. Not having the peasant bowmen with poison is like a staple, I think, for Bretonnia. And not having any of them is, that's going to be interesting. We'll see if that works out or not. We have some other knights errant. So we have 4 total, and then we have looks like 3 Knights of the Realm. We do have the Royal Hippogriff Knights, though, and that's going to be a punishing foe indeed, as we have Alberic, or not Alberic, King Lewin. Not sure why I said Alberic. We have King Lewin. Of course, he's going to have his Sword of Corone, and he's going to be quite a fearsome foe as well. But yeah, not having any Peasant Bowman with poison, going to be interesting. We do have 1 Paladin and a Damsel of Life with just Earthblood. And that's going to be pretty much it for Ulrich. So for the forces of Chosen One, we have a front line a little bit more standard, I suppose. We have some more peasant mobs backed up by some men-at-arms with polearms and some spearmen-at-arms. We do, of course, have the Fae, and we have double Paladin as well, one of which has Guardian. And then we have peasant bowmen with pox arrows in the back, as we do have a bunch of those. Kind of just 3 of them, and we have 1 field trebuchet to draw the Ulrich into him, and then he will have 4 questing knights in the back, one of which being the Companions of Quenelles. So I'm going to have to give the edge to Chosen One with these builds. Not having the Peasant Bowman with poison is going to be really interesting, unless those Royal Hippogriff Knights are going to be able to pull things off. So yeah, just 1 treb for Chosen One. We'll see if that's going to make the difference or not. It's pretty much just going to force Ulrich to engage him. That's really it, why you would only bring 1, because if you brought 1, the other side brings like 3 or 4. You lose 1, that's not such a big deal. But when you bring 1, the other side doesn't have anything, you get the engagement you want versus the other way around. Potentially too many ranged with, I don't know about too many ranged. Because when there's this many cav against you, it might be hard to really protect it all. So having these men-at-arms on the flanks is going to help the 2 paladins with the Fae. Just going to see how badly these questing knights get. If they get charged, that could be pretty bad for them, but if they can avoid that and get the engagement they want, because they don't even need to get the charge to do well in these engagements. They just need to engage through their own infantry, and they should be able to trade well into everything that Ulrich has brought. Archers are going to be opening up, but this massive cavalry circling around the flank. The questing knights are going to spin around to respond to that, just to provide a little bit of a deterrent to getting any free charges in, as the Bretonnians do slowly engage 1 at a time. We do actually have some little cheeky mounted yeomen in the back, probably thinking of maybe getting on top of any trebs that Ulrich would have brought. But now here comes the cav engagement. The questing knights looking to get a nice counter charge, and they do get it, as these peasant bowmen back up expertly through their questing knights. So a very good trade by Chosen One there, as he gets another nice free charge into these knights errant. So things definitely going well for Chosen One off the initial charges. But in comes the heavy hitters, the paladins, King Lewin, and the Royal Hippogriff Knights. With their flying, they do have a nice bit of choice for how and when they engage. Sword of Corone. No, it is just going to be the Foe Seeker and Stand Your Ground. And yeah, this is kind of where a lot of this is going to be decided. These Questing Knights taking a decent amount of damage, like actually a lot of damage here. So already getting the good engagements on this right flank with those Royal Hippogriff Knights. But those Royal Hippogriff Knights are just getting melted by... I mean, you have these pole arms here doing a ton of damage themselves. And man, if he loses those Royal Hippogriff Knights, that's a ton of cost going pretty much right down the tank there. Because so far, Chosen One on his left flank has done quite well, though the Trebs have been shut down. Though, I mean, it's such a small loss there. I don't think the Treb is, as I said before, the Treb is there to get your engagement. Other than that, it can die, it doesn't matter, and he's going to be fine taking that loss, because now at this point, he can't really fire in anyways. As, I mean, these Questing Knights are getting beaten down, but so did those Royal Hippogriff Knights. They have returned, but there's only a few models left. I'm going to take a little look here. So we only have 3 of them left. One of them's a little lagging behind. So even an Earthblood and stuff isn't going to really heal things up too quickly. Though King Lewin jumping on the Fae, as he's going to be doing quite a bit of damage. So, I mean, if King Lewin can deal with the Fae and the 2 Paladins by himself, then I think Ulrich may have a decent chance. But the front line here, kind of a wash on both sides, though Chosen One able to push off all of the supporting peasants. Definitely had the advantage there. The Questing Knights able to do quite well. These Knights Errant on the side getting beaten down by those Questing Knights, but this is really where it's going to be decided here. How much damage is these Royal Hippogriff Knights going to be able to kind of deal the damage back, and how is King Lewin going to be able to deal with the Fae and the Paladins? Because right now King Lewin is being pretty on top of it, getting on the Fae, but both, or at least he's helping with his own Paladin, and these other 2 Paladins are kind of stuck in this cav engagement here, and the Fae is very isolated. I would say, well, not very isolated, but isolated enough where she's taking a lot of damage she does not want to be, and the shots from these pox arrows are helping Chosen One even more, as the bounce power is starting to favor him bit by bit as time goes on. All this poison and the charges that he's been getting have been much better than what Ulrich has been getting, and now that the Questing Knights on his left flank have taken care of business, he is able to now rotate those in and just pretty much surround everything that Ulrich has left. And yeah, I think that is going to be all she wrote, as we do have King Lewin getting a little low on health, but he is able to sustain. But yeah, the 2 Paladins from Chosen One doing quite well, and the Damsel's pretty isolated. And I think really it's all this poison coming in, and the charges have definitely been in Chosen One's favor from the get-go. Yep, I don't think there's really a whole lot left. You do have some of the Royal Hippogriff Knights coming back, but when everything's just caught in here, because when you bring all of your like shot cav and they're just stuck in melee with Questing Knights, you're not going to have a good day, as they're just getting slowly dragged down. I mean, the Paladins are starting to take some damage, sure, and King Lewin has done a bit of damage to the Fae Enchantress, but at this point, the Fae Enchantress, she's done all her draining, and yeah, it's only a matter of time there. Bretonia does take the second battle, definitely having the advantage on the builds from the get-go. Questing Knights just racking up the value there. 2,400 on the Companions, wow. And other than that, I mean, yeah, just the Peasant Bowman as well, getting a nice bit of value, and that poison, that was just so critical in that cav engagement. Having one side have poison, the other didn't, and the Fae, I mean, her damage dealt really wasn't all too impressive, just pretty much there for some healing, allowing all the Questing Knights to do all of the heavy lifting, and yeah, the Knights on Ulrich's side, just not quite enough there. Royal Hippogriff Knights not even getting half of their value, while King Lewin, I don't even think he paid for himself. Paladin did, but that was about it. Oops. Alright, so next map is going to be Pillar of Bone. And, well, now Chosen One, since he did win Game 2, he will have pick 3 and ban 1. So we'll see kind of what he decides to go with for that. Yeah. Yep, Chosen One definitely taken the advantage on the builds there. And yeah, update scorecard as well, as it is now 1-1. Going into game 3. Give each side a little bit of time to think about picks and bans. A little bit of an interesting choice here, because on the screen here you can see what each side has picked so far. So in Chosen One won't be able to pick Skaven or Bretonnia, and he is going to be going Greenskins, Wood Elves, and Lizardmen. So we'll get to that set up. For his 3 picks. So Greenskins, Wood Elves, and Lizardmen. And he'll be banning Dawi. So now Ulrich gets to pick one and ban one of the 3. So he's going to be going Counts and banning Lizardmen. So his counter is going to be picking Counts, and he will be banning the Lizardmen. So now Chosen One gets to choose between Greenskins and the Wood Elves. Yeah, once again, banning Dawi, denying their appearance in the tournament so far. But we'll see if we see one of them in our final. But we won't be seeing them in the semis today. So Chosen One, out of the factions, is going to be going with the Wood Elves. So it's going to be Wood Elves versus Counts. Ooh, I hope Ulrich has a good idea on what he's doing against Wood Elves, because that is not a fun matchup, especially not with how much that the Wood Elves can do. Oof, yeah, I don't know about Ulrich's next. He must have something in mind. There is some tools he can deal with, but like the vast difference that the Wood Elves can do is what makes them such a threat, because they can go full kite, they can go full, they can go just box, like heavy blob, and ooh, it is like there are some potential combinations that are just devastating. Like you can bring 4 Hawk Riders with the sisters, and it's just a massive air force that, yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I would as Count, I would much rather go against Lizardmen than Wood Elves. But hey, Rubber Duck, welcome to the stream. Yeah, Doctor, that's what I'm saying. Is like he must have a plan, because I play Counts a fair amount, and I am not confident against Wood Elves whatsoever. But he must have something up his sleeve, so I'm going to be watching and writing down what Ulrich does and seeing if it works out or not. Because apparently he knows something I don't. I gotta imagine it's going to be something. Well, I mean, Blood Knights can be rather risky here. So yeah, Rubber Duck, the other semi was Evan Starr versus Legatus Leonidas, and Starr did win that 2-0, so whoever wins this game is going to be facing Starr in the finals. Yes, J Phoenix, let the hate flow through you. Ulrich is... she isn't going to get banned. But yeah, both sides ready to go, so let's load on in. The only advantage I think that Ulrich might have is the map size. It's not like super big. It still has places where it's going to benefit the Wood Elves more. Though Ulrich, I suppose, got that side of the engagement, because he should be deploying on this... Oh, I guess you guys can't see it. Now you can. On the lower side. But we'll see... Yeah, we'll see what he's got up his sleeve. I mean, Vargeist could be potential here because they have a good armor piercing. Oh, there it is. There's the Hawk Rider, the Doom Squad there. All right, so for the counts, we do have triple Fellbats in the sky. We have Skeleton Warriors with some Crypt Ghouls as well. Some other Skeleton Warriors fairly wide on the build here. Some Black Knights, Blood Knights. We do have a Black Coach, which could help break through that blob, but that's not what you're going to be up against. We have a Von Karstein Vampire Lord, and here is that counter, as he does have that, exactly what it's called. It's the Storm of the Night, essentially a Bound Tempest. He's going to get 3 charges of those over the course of the games. He does have Charmed Shield, giving himself Missile Parry and Damage Resist. We can pop that, a kind of a discount Ring of Von Karstein. We have Raise Dead, Invocation. So hopefully that's going to be enough to counter the massive amount of Hawk Riders that we're going to be seeing, because we do have the Sisters of Twilight up on their dragon, and I believe that is Conjoined Destiny, I see. Yeah, he does have Conjoined Destiny. He does have Ariel, as well as 4 Hawk Riders. And then they will be retreating back onto this unholy blob of Eternal Guard and double Treekin. So, yeah, the counts are going to have a lot to work out for. Man, well, Ulrich had better work some magic, because we do have a couple White Kings. They do have Scab Scraith, so maybe that's enough to break through. But otherwise, the cycle charging from the Black Knights and Blood Knights might be enough. The Black Coach and the Lord are going to be very good targets, though, for these Hawk Riders. So we'll see how things wait. Yeah, no, these are not Harpies. These are Hawk Riders. They have 360 fire, and it is going to be very hard for them to be dealt with. Alright, well, let's see what Ulrich can do, because he does have the triple Fellbats. It might be able to screen out these Hawk Riders, but right now the Hawk Riders are going to have pretty much free reign. They are going to see that there is a Von Karstein Lord here, and if they get a very nice Storm of the Night off, if it can catch more than one of these Hawk Riders, that might be enough. But right now the Hawk Riders are just going to push back these Fellbats and allowing the Sisters of Twilight to just fire in, and that Storm of the Night pretty much has to be used on these Hawk Riders. And that's what he is going to be looking to go for, trying to catch more than one of them. He might be able to catch this little double here. We'll see if that... And he does get one off, so he does get a very nice cast, catching both of these Hawk Riders. A lot of value from that cast, as he's going to be wavering and breaking both of them. He does lose 2 units of Fellbats, but being able to deal with 2 units of Hawk Riders, I think is going to be more than worth it. And they are decently close to that white line, and they should be able to go off. Fellbats definitely engage off and try and push them off the field, as the rest of the troops here are pushing quickly into the box of the Wood Elves, as the Hawk Rider is going to slowly try and pluck away at that Von Karstein Vampire Lord, trying to kill him before they can get another one off. But yeah, take a little look. Both of those Hawk Riders are right at the edge of the map, and I don't think they're going to be returning. They just took so much damage from that cast, and that's exactly what Ulrich needed to do to have that edge in the sky, because he was going to be in for a treat if he did not do that. And away they do go. So now it's just going to pretty much be a full surround off, but Ariel is going to be such a hard thing to deal with because she does have Soul Stealer, and as well as Berry Wine and that Acorn of the Oak of Ages, as well as she does have Tempest, but the Tempest really not useful anymore unless they were going to be bringing Vargeist, Soul Stealer, and Acorn of the Ages. Von Karstein Lord able to dodge these shots. He's taking some fire, but overall he's able to withstand, and he should be getting another Storm of the Night up before too long. And if he is able to get another very good one off. But yeah, right now these Hawk Riders are just posting up directly over him. They're making him waste his Winds of Magic on Invocation of Nehek, and there is that second one going to be doing a lot of damage. Not as good as the first, but it is going to be just whittling down these Hawk Riders. These Felbats aren't here to really follow up, and they are able to avoid most of that damage, unlike that earlier cast. And he does have one charge left, but he is approaching his healing cap, and those Hawk Riders and Sisters of Twilight are relentlessly trying to get him killed. Now, the White Kings are engaging with Ariel, though unfortunately for them, I don't think they're going to be doing a whole lot of damage to her. Her animations kind of make it a little bit harder to do, but having those Scab's Grace actually is that, unless that's the... I do believe that, or that's the Sword of the Anti-Heroes, actually. Do a quick check on that. No, it is Scab's Wraith. So I haven't seen a Scab's Wraith yet, and it should be enough to whittle down these Eternal Guard, and if they're able to get just the Treekin and Ariel alone, but oh no, look at this Soul Stealer. This is going to be devastating. It caught so many units. The Blood Knights, Black Knights, these Crypt Ghouls, both of the White Kings, that Black Coach, that was just a devastating Soul Stealer. It hit so many units for the counts there. Now, these Hawk Riders are getting wavered right now by these Felbats, so that's one more gone, but man, look how low that Von Karstein Vampire Lord is. He is, like, this ammunition from the Hawk Riders, if he has another Storm of the Night, he needs to use it as soon as he possibly can, and once that's gone, so is his answer to the Sisters of Twilight and those Hawk Riders. But oh, that Soul Stealer was so devastating. And a nice, juicy breath attack right into these Blood Knights. Those Blood Knights are just taking such a beating right now. The only advantage here that the Counts have is the sheer numbers, that they're getting pretty much good surrounds off on all of the Eternal Guard onto the Treekin. If they're able to break them, they'll be able to push them away. But yeah, it's just not looking so good, as the Hawk Riders, I do believe, finally finished off that Von Karstein Vampire Lord. So he wasn't able to get all three of his off, but man, that was so absolutely devastating. And away goes Ariel, hunted off the map by, I think, that Black Coach there, pushing her way out of the blob. So now she is fairly isolated right now, surrounded by just zombies, so she isn't in her Treekin anymore. And those White Kings might be able to get on top of her, but here, oh no, look at that Soul Stealer. Soul Stealer 2.0 right on top of all of these units. Those Soul Stealers have just been so devastating and are just healing her up bit by bit, with all of that damage going the way of towards the Counts. Yeah, that... Felbats are engaging with the Hawk Riders, though, are slowly whittling them down, but they've done their job. They killed that Vampire Lord, and is pretty much just leaving that Sisters of Twilight to just post up. The Sisters of Twilight will have that scatter shot that can just deal with all of this massive infantry, and Ariel is pretty much at full health right now. And she still has, I believe, her Berry Wine, and she's probably going to have another Soul Stealer as well, and this Black Coach is just getting whittled down. Eventually that Sisters of Twilight is going to focus its attention on there. Felbat's not quite able to break these Hawk Riders, and the air is going to go the way of the Wood Elves here, even though there's a lot of cavalry. Yeah, just dealing with Ariel, the Hawk Riders, and the Sisters of Twilight, who are all at full health, is just going to be really, really hard, because you just don't have any big units to kill Ariel and the Dragon. The Treekin are holding fast, but, I mean, they are going to be getting close to routing right here, actually. These Treekin are wavering. If they are able to rout and be escorted off the map, it might be enough to force the Sisters of Twilight to really pick an unopportune engagement. But, oh, there is that Acorn of the Oak of Ages right into the middle of things, doing a nice bit of damage there. And the White Kings aren't going to be returning, trying to finish off Ariel, but just 2-foot characters. You need something larger, like a Vargul, for instance, can potentially deal enough damage, and that Black Coach is just getting lit up by the Sisters of Twilight and the Hawk Riders. And, oh, I thought that was going to be it for that Black Coach, but it does survive to see one more shot from the Sisters of Twilight. Ariel continuing to beat down the White Kings as they're just unable to do enough damage. And down goes that Black Coach. And yeah, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot left that the Counts can do if they can get some surrounds off, because I'm not sure how much Blood Knights they have left. They have like 16 Blood Knights. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. They are fairly low health. They're going to be able to escort off the Treekin, and it is just going to be down to Ariel and these Hawk Riders with the Sisters of Twilight. So we'll see if that's going to be enough, but the Sisters of Twilight with their single shot going to be able to focus down these White Kings, and I mean, could potentially even just dive down and finish that one off and pull out fairly easily. No, balance of power is a little bit better than it was a few seconds ago. Yeah, that Air Force was just so strong, and despite the fact that the Counts did almost everything that they could, Ariel did bring her Tempest, but by the time that the Air Force got close to her, the Fellbats were all pretty much dealt with. Didn't need to waste Winds of Magic on them, and got 2 Storm of the Knights off. Was able to do a massive amount of damage to 2 of the Hawk Riders, but wasn't able to finish off all 4 of them. And I think that was it. So having like either Terrorgeist, Vargeist are actually fairly good right now, so that could have been enough to really deal with them, to contest them in the air. And now it is just going to be down to the Hawk Riders, Ariel, and the Sisters of Twilight, and a nice little blob forming. And depending on how the Winds of Magic is at this point, we do have some of the Eternal Guard returning, though these Black Knights and Blood Knights should be able to peel off and finish them off. And away goes that White King, kicked out of the blob by Ariel. And Auric is being a little cautious. He is keeping some of his units out of range of that Soul Stealer. These Hawk Riders are getting beaten down, and it is going to be just down to Ariel and the Sisters of Twilight now. And the Sisters of Twilight are out of, or now they are out of ammunition. So they've used up all of their ammo. The last of the Eternal Guard are being beaten down. The Counts could wear them down, but they're all crumbling right now. And the Sisters of Twilight going to come in to aid Ariel. If they can get rid of this, breath attack from above. Oh, that was right on top of the head of that White King. And now at this point, the Sisters going to dive into combat, try and get rid of this White King. And once that White King is gone, it's pretty much going to have to be won by the Blood Knights and the Black Knights if they're able to do that. They should be able to deal with these Sisters, and and here is another Soul Stealer. Another Soul Stealer going to catch pretty much all of the units left, and that's, I think, is going to put the final nail in the coffin. Yes, JP, that is any second now, and there is that second, as everything is just getting drained down. Blood Knights, White King, everything. And yeah, the Black Knights aren't going to be able to bring down the Dragon, and that White King is just so low on health. The Dragon going to be trying to finish it off. And yeah, I think all hope is lost now. Even Chosen One, not exactly happy with what he's done. Ooh, yeah, those Soul Stealers, each of the Soul Stealers. I don't even want to look at Ariel's value here, but let's take a little look, shall we? 2,800, dealt almost 30,000 in damage that match. That is a ton of damage. The Sisters themselves, 4,300. 4,300, because they were able to just sit and fire. They dealt so much damage to the Von Karstein Lord, and while everything else just was kind of there. Oh my gosh, they had 2,000 on these Hawk Riders as well. These two are the ones that got taken out early. 600 on there. Oh, that is a ton of damage by the characters and the flyers of the Wood Elves. And the Counts, probably he's going to see a lot of damage from the Von Karstein, but everything else just didn't really do enough. Like the Blood Knights just couldn't get the damage they needed. They were pretty much there to deal with the Dragon and those like Treekin and stuff like that, but they just couldn't pull it out in the end. It was a lot closer than I kind of thought it would be, but it did come down to Ariel and the Sisters, and they were able to pull that back in the end. And looks like they had both left the lobby. But let's take a look at our bracket here, as Chosen One does advance to the finals. It is going to be Evan Starr versus Chosen One. Put a little ping in Discord for them. So yeah, that was quite oof. Oof, 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 indeed. VC definitely got the short end of that one. That is a devastating combination right there. It's so hard for the counts to deal with. So get things ready for our finals now, which is going to be a best of 5. Get the map set for that as well. The first one is going to be Shimmersward. All right, just waiting on Starr now to hop on in. All right, well, while we wait on Starr to join on in, I'm going to step out for just a second. And then hopefully when I get back, they'll have their armies selected. So I'll catch you in a couple minutes. Alright, I am back. So I do have Evan Starr now just in the lobby. So for the best of 5, it's going to be a pick one, ban one. Kind of just how that generally is going to work out. See if what I missed in chat while I was away. Right, seems to be going on about all of the counts and stuff. So, Chosen One is picking Empire. We'll get this stuff set up. Picking Empire. And he will be banning Dowie. The Ariel, I'm fallen and I can't get up. Where's Life Alert when you need him? Alright, and Evan Starr is going to be responding with Bretonia. I still think Ariel, is probably a little bit more impactful than the Packmasters. So, having an unbreakable, greater arcane conduit, massive unit, definitely a little bit harder to deal with, I think, than some Packmasters, even though they do have a lot of speed and stuff like that. Because if it's just a Packmaster left, that Packmaster isn't going to be able to hold off against a few hundred troops. Alright, both sides are ready to go, so let's get on into this. Alright, so I thought Chosen One was ready, so we're just waiting on him to ready up, and then we'll get on into the first match of our best of 5 finals. While we wait, I can update the picks and bans for the Chosen One has Empire. Yeah, Wood Elf, it wasn't necessarily great last patch for the counts, but with the new tools that they got, it made it a lot harder. And having the Hawk Riders have 360 fire sure didn't help. Alright, so we're loading on in to our first match. Yeah, the only saving grace with that regen is it's only on Molder units. Though with Skaven, you're gonna be like, I guess with like Rat Ogres and stuff, that's definitely a bit harder to deal with if you can't get them down quickly enough. Yeah, Hawk Riders are useful, but having that many of them with 360, there's like certain matchups where it's really hard to deal with. But anyways, on to the match. So we have Empire by Chosen One is going to be having some Spearmen with some Halberdiers mixed in to that little mix, as well as the Sigmar's Sons, little ROR, something to hold off the tide of Bretonnian Cav. We do have Karl Franz as well, bringing Reichling Runefang, Gal Maraz, Jade Wizard with Earthblood and Regrowth, pretty standard for those combinations. And we do have, looks like, was that triple or quadruple war wagons. Going to be looking to try and kite the mobility of the Bretonnians here. And we do also have a couple of cannons as well. Keeps moving around bit by bit. So we have 3 great cannons. And actually, no, 2 great cannons, 1 mortar to help deal with the peasants, and the cannons to deal with the cav. And for the Bretonnians, we do have some Knights of the Realm with some questing knights on one flank. Front line going to be a bunch of peasant mobs and backed up by battle pilgrims. A nice little unit there to help kind of whittle through those state troops. So that's pretty much for all the knights. Don't really have to focus solely on that front line. Those battle pilgrims should be able to beat all of the state troops no problem. And we do have Knights of the Realm. We have questing knights, and we have the companions of Quenelles off in the trees, going to be supported by a double paladin. So actually neither of the paladins do have the Guardian ability, but we do have the Fey Enchantress with the Chalice of Potions, Earthblood, and Awakening of the Wood. And then in the front, we also have the Wardens of Montfort, the Mounted Yeoman Archer ROR. Not something you see every day, but they do have a mobile poison, and the Mounted Yeoman Archers. And so instead of having peasant bowmen, which there are none, surprisingly enough as well, there is going to be those mounted yeomen with their own poison, so it isn't going to be completely poisonless, and that poison might be quite useful in slowing down these war wagons, able to kind of pick them off with their mobility. But these war wagons, we'll see just how well they do. It's definitely not a traditional build by any means from Chosen One here, though we'll see just how things shake up. Cannons are starting to sing as they're going to be going right through these battle pilgrims for their initial shots. It's only a matter of time before they start focusing down a bit more on the cavalry, and the mortars are going to be breaking through these peasant mobs very, very quickly, getting them down to wavering with just a single volley. And these war wagons going to be doing a lot of damage to these battle pilgrims before they're going to be able to start getting pressured off by any of the mobility that the Bretonnians do have. Karl Franz getting a little bit caught out by paladins, but he's not going to be too worried about that. There's not a whole lot that can really deal with him in the air other than these 2 paladins, though they are doing a decent amount of damage, actually a lot more than I would expect. And he's getting out of range of his war wagon, so if he can't pull out of this, though that one paladin is taking actually a lot of damage with just a single charge. He does have Gal Maraz and the Reichling Runefang popped, so he is now dishing out a ton of damage, and the Bretonnia definitely doesn't want to lose their paladins so early on in this fight. They need to be very, very careful. Yeah, the war wagons definitely have quite a bit of mobility. It looks like an overcast spell there, overcasted regrowth, just a little bit of damage to that Jade Wizard, but will top off Karl Franz as he is able to break one of the paladins and is going to start chasing them off the field. And that is going to be a major loss for Bretonnia if at least one of them can't. One does rout, so he's going to try and pull out. No chance of really trying to save him. They need something in the air, because right now it is just the Wardens of Montfort and the Mounted Yeomen that really have any kind of anti-air, so that would just allow Karl Franz to do whatever he wanted at that point. But Frontline's going to be getting charged by all of the Bretonnian cavalry. Some of the war wagons have gotten broken down. It is broken right now. There are still 2 units left on it, and with how slowly it's routing off, I'm sure it's going to be returning fairly soon. And we do have a Chalice of Potions going to be dropping down, trying to get these Sigmar Sons, but a nice dodge by the Chosen One as he does get all of his units out of the way from that, taking only some very stragglers in damage. But the Fae is now actually engaging that Jade Wizard in combat, and she's going to want to kind of get as far away as she can, as in comes Karl Franz, though the other Paladin does absolutely just kicks that Jade Wizard into those cannons right there. And Karl Franz trying, though, to deal with that Fae as quickly as he can. And by doing so, though, he is letting his Jade Wizard kind of get singled out by that Paladin. And a nice charge by the Questing Knights into the rear of these mortar teams. At this point, though, the mortars have pretty much done about as much as they're gonna, because there's pretty much just fire into the peasants as quickly as they can before they approached. But at this point, Yeah, the Bretonnians are quickly collapsing upon the Empire location, having all that funds into the war wagons. Just, you don't have enough to support your cannons. I mean, look at the Great Cannons, have only used a sliver of their ammunition. Both of the Paladins are on top of that Jade Wizard, going to be taking them out very, very quickly. However, the Fey Enchantress is also going to be routing right now to Karl Franz, so Karl Franz can potentially carry this matchup. Though against all of the questing knights is going to be really hard for him to deal with, especially if all of his infantry supports gets broken down and chased off by all the cav, because he doesn't have any quick mobility to help chase anything off himself or to really protect the stuff that he is getting chased off by him, as even these Wardens of Montfort able to break down the spearmen and that cannon crew. Though the Fae has returned to the fight, as Karl Franz did kind of neglect on that charge, so he wouldn't have been able to keep up with her anyways. Yeah, now all of Bretonnia here, if you take a look at the colors here, you can just see all of the red just surrounding the Empire forces. These war wagons, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot in combat, as they're just getting whittled down bit by bit by these questing knights, and the questing knights are more than happy to just stay in combat and allow that Fae to whittle things down bit by bit as well. And Karl Franz just isn't going to be able to kill everything here. He still does have his Jade Wizard, so for some healing. But yeah, at this point, I mean, the Jade Wizard's going to be routing fairly soon, as both of the Paladins trying to finish her off. And a nice little Chalice of Potions, again, being able to be dodged. It might do a little bit more friendly fire here than anything else, as it just nukes those peasants. But other than that, yeah, this battle, I think, is definitely going the way of Bretonnia. Just too much mass to really hold back. And that is one thing that I've seen Empire struggle with. Like, if they try and like either kite stuff away, like their front line, if they bring cannons or anything like that, handguns, it's just going to get squished. Again, there's nothing that can really hold all of that back. As like state troops, unless you have like Sigmar Sons, Flagellants, but they die quickly. That while they don't rout, they don't really have the stopping power to hold back a bunch of questing knights and the like. And now it is just down to Karl Franz alone atop all of the wreckage of war wagons, providing a little bit of mass to prevent some of the cav to get in. But yeah, that was a lost cause there, as Chosen One will take that first one. Or not Chosen One, Evan Starr. I'm sorry, I must have got those mixed up. Yeah, Evan Starr will take that first one. I got those mixed up a little bit there. So the right score, so he takes a 1-0 lead. And take a look at the value here. Faye getting 1,500. One of the Paladins doing quite well. They did take quite a bit of damage early on from Karl, who 3,500 for Karl. So Karl did quite well. Can't say that about the rest of his troops, though. Mortars, war wagons, just a little lackluster. Then I think you need Demigryph Knights. Like, you have to have something to contend with the heavy cavalry of Bretonnia. You need demis. Outriders probably do better than war wagons here. They're a little quicker. Yes, the war wagons have a bit of mass to them, but yeah, the halberdiers just not going to hold off against all of that stuff. But yeah, Bretonnia, very nice build here. I think maybe a little experimental build by Chosen One, as it did fall a little short. All right, so for the next match is going to be on Storm Demon. So now we do have Evan Starr up for his picks, since he has picked Bretonnia for his first one. It is just going to be one ban. Yeah, with the steam tank, being unbreakable, because how quickly like the cannons got taken offline. You have something that can do well in melee. It has the steam gun that can do stuff on top, like in melee can do things. I don't know about too much range. Two cannons and a mortar probably is too much. Like maybe bringing one cannon, but I do like Hadri's idea of bringing the steam tank instead, because having it be unbreakable, high armor, have that steam cannon in melee, and it can fire at range as well. It can really support that, provide a bit of mass, though I imagine it can get quite stuck if it gets into a bad situation, but if you have some like demis to support that, I think that can really do quite well. So I guess, yeah, you guys can hear my dogs running to and fro in the background. As people have said before, I got a little trio skin wolves kind of running around. A little pent up, I guess. All right, so for... Oh. All right, well, I guess that does it. Chosen One doesn't really care so much for that. I guess it's the pick double ban thing is mostly the most critical when it's late game, where or later in the series when if you're banning 2 in like games 3 and 4, it makes a big difference. But so Starr is going to be going Skaven for this game. So we'll update our little board here. And Starr has shown that he is quite good with the Skaven. And then he is in turn banning High Elves. So since he had that first, if he wants to ban Skaven later, then I will allow him to do that, since it is pick and ban 1 for the best of 5. And Chosen One, going to be going Beastman for his counter pick. Quite interesting indeed. Skaven Beastman. I have seen this go poorly for both sides, because the Beastmen, very strong rush faction, but if you can delay them long enough, then that's when you're going to see the Skaven start to kind of go the other way. But if the Beastmen can break down that front line quickly enough, get into the important troops, so like Poison Wind Mortars, any of the long range stuff, then that's... so if you're looking at why there was a Dwarf icon, that was from the previous first match. So yeah, this one is Skaven banning High Elves going Beastmen. But yeah, Skaven, they just have the mass, I think, like, it's going to be a big problem. So Throt, I think, is going to be a decent pick here. Throt, Packmaster, something like that. Keep their stuff going. That's going to be really the big thing. Because having that heals against Beastmen, I think, is very, very helpful. Because then you can withstand that initial attack. Because once the Beastmen run out of steam, then they've kind of lost it. Because after that, if they don't win quickly, it's very hard for them to win unless they're going for like a kite build. And that's not really the best bet against Skaven, I don't think. Well, actually, let's see if I can show you the dogs right now. So, oops, there they are. Okay, looks good. All right. So it looks like Chosen One is ready to go. So he has Beastmen, Starr, Skaven. Yes, Ice Wolves indeed. Unfortunately, despite being up in the northern states, we don't have any snow right now. Unfortunate. Doesn't look like we're even going to get any anytime soon. So as much as they would love to be out in the snow right now, it's cold, just no snow. Yep, definitely. Yeah, huskies definitely look a lot like a wolf, just not nearly as big as one. Wouldn't surprise me if well, I don't think I spend quite as much money feeding them as I do myself, but it's not nothing. All right, so we are loading on in. So we can switch on over to that as we are on Storm Demon, which has a little smaller deployment zone. So it's a pretty interesting map in and itself. A little bit of terrain adjustments, but otherwise it's fairly open. Yep, my science teacher had a Python back in high school, and occasionally he would actually do feedings after school with live mice that people would stay after and watch him do that. All right, so here are the Beastmen forces. We do have a lot of Chaos Spawn for that rush to kind of hold that initial charge because they are unbreakable. The rest of the front line is just going to be Ungor Spearman Herd. We do have a couple of Ungor Raiders as well. And for mobility, we do have some Centaurs with Chaos Warhounds and a pair of Razorgore Herds as well. Some Harpies, excuse me, some Harpies up in the sky. And we do also have some regular Ungor herds, so a lot of cheap frontline infantry to deal with the Skaven. For spells, we do have a Bray Shaman of Beasts. Then we bring in Flock of Doom and Transformation of Kadan. Transformation of Kadan, always a good pick against Skaven. Yes, they got +3 Winds of Magic on that, but it's still going to be very, very useful. As we also have Morgur, the Shadowgave, with the Staff of Corruption and Spirit Essence of Chaos. Going to be bringing a lot of Chaos Bond to the field today, and we also going to have a couple Manticores getting onto the characters, onto some of the ranged units, as well as what the Harpies will be doing. And now over to the Skaven forces, as we do have some Vanguard, with some Night Runners off on to the flanks, with some Eshin Triads, and we have Plague Monks with Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats kind of mixed in. So we actually have some heavy hitters with those Plague Monks, so 3 of those, not something you usually see considering that the Skaven can summon those. That's usually where you do see them in matchups. We do have some Skaven Slave Singers, Wolf Rats with Poison, should do well against the Chaos Warhounds considering they do have Poison, and we have Natty Boo Boo Sharpshooters to fire on them as they approach, and of course a Plague Priest going to be on the field as well, up on his Plague Furnace, bringing Billowing Death, so a nice little Mortis Engine effect to help drain down the Beastmen forces, Pestilent Breath, the Bound one, as well as the regular cast and Vermintide for a summon of Clan Rats. Since it does have its Plague Monks, not going to elect to take that, just going to elect with the rest of his thing. And I kind of be pushing up against one side of the deployment, looking to get the better range for fire for those Jezzails, I think, is what the plan is, because when you're kind of shooting over this, you're not going to have the best and trying to avoid this little ridge, because the Beastmen could elect to kind of take that to have. Okay, so a little correction on, I guess, my thing. It was a ball python, not a Burmese python, for my science teacher back in high school, but... And I did forget about the Lord. Actually going to be bringing a Master Assassin, funnily enough. Not going to be bringing Snicketch. I usually don't see the Master Assassin because of Snicketch. And he is going to have Looming Dread. So -22 missile resist, speed, and melee defense to kind of close down that speed. Allow those Jezzails to kind of do a lot of damage. Sacred Horn, a Banner of the Horned Rat, -8 leadership. And scurry away. So both armies are going to be advancing. Beastmen pretty straightforward. They're just going to have to kind of just bum rush straight forward and try and break through. They do have a lot of good targets to get onto, though. You have the Natty Boo Boo Sharpshooters are now opening up right now into those Razorgore herds. A very nice target for them to be firing in at. He didn't have Rival High Talisman, though, for the Master Assassin. So it's going to be a little interesting to see how that kind of pans out. Very spread out for the Beastmen, though. Really looking to kind of close that distance as the Night Runners are trying to push up as well. Trying to get a little sneaky maneuver by those Eshin Triads as they do have stock. Trying to get a little bit of a surprise off into the rear of these Centaurs as the Gutter Runners with Poison and Night Runners really slow down that approach as much as they can. And how those Razor Gore herds already rampage from that fire as the Plague Priest needs to be a little careful right here, as it can get its summons out to delay those Chaos Spawn. It does not want to get caught out by them, because that is quickly how you lose your Lord. But a nice Scorch going right down the line, a double Scorch actually, as it uses its Bound and its regular one, because the Bound one, you can't just like cast it wherever, it's actually fixed on the Plague Priest location. So it does have to kind of get out ahead of things if it wants to get a good cast. Otherwise, Plague Monks, though, going to be getting into these rampaged Razor Gore herds, and I do believe they should do fairly well in that, especially with these Night Runners and Gutter Runners with Poison firing in. Should make quick work of that, as the Beastmen are now kind of just engaged in this more of a, or less of a blob fight here, and decent cycling in with those Centaurs and Chaos Warhounds. But these Chaos Spawn are going to get whittled down bit by all these Gutter Runners and Night Runners. Though I think if you have a bunch of Slingers, could provide a lot better use against them. Harpies are going to be shutting down the Nanny Boo Boo Sharpshooters, a very good target for them to be on top of. I haven't seen a summon yet for the Manticore, but here it is actually going to be summoned by that Grey Shaman in the rear. Should be looking to get on top of some of the key targets for the Assassin, Nanny Boo Boos, and the likes. Yes, that Razor Gore herd not exactly engaging best that it could. As, yeah, the Plague Monk's going to be collapsing on these Ungor herds as they do getting up against those Skaven Slave Slingers. And, yeah, right now, it looks like the Beastmen, at least for the time being, are doing all right, though the balance of power is not, I guess it's not in their favor, as they are kind of running out of a lot of their mobility. But their Chaos Spawn are all quite healthy, and once they shut down like the Slingers and stuff, that's going to be pretty nice for them, as like these Nanny Boo Boos have been shut down by these Harpies, which is a very nice catch by them. But otherwise, I mean, that Assassin is going to be able to do quite well against Morgar, I believe. And yeah, it's a really spread out battle though for the most part. Let's see, where was that Assassin? Yeah, Assassin here doesn't want to be caught out by the summon of Chaos Spawn. Or by the wherever that Manticore has gone. Actually, the Manticore is over here assisting that Grey Shaman. Not really sure what its target was on that side of the map. I don't believe any, unless the Plague Priest got taken out. Actually, that is a good point. I do not see that Plague Priest. The Plague Priest, I think, actually got taken out, and here is the wreckage of that Plague Priest. So the Feral Manticore doing good work so far, able to get rid of that key target, but now Morgar, the Shadowgave, is, I believe, engaged with that Master Assassin, and so this is where that Assassin wants to be dealing with Morgar, though at this point, like, neither side has any support right there. There's a little bit of Ungor Spearman herd, and I think these Chaos Spawn would do well to kind of go and assist their Lord right now, as he is kind of stuck engaged with that Master Assassin. This summon here is getting very close to disintegrating, as it is on its last stage. But yeah, the Master Assassin taking more damage than he dealt out against Morgar. I think that's kind of a good reason why Snicketch is generally the better pick here. He has a lot more tools against, like, he has his Sigil and the other assassins to help with him, getting like Rival High Talisman. But yeah, that assassin took quite a bit of damage, and just as he was about to get kind of caught out by all of these Chaos Spawn, they do finally disintegrate, though there should be one more left for Morgar, but he does need to take a bit more damage before that does become available to him. Right now, yeah, both sides very spread out. Balance of power is generally very inflated for Beastmen, so I would say it's more in the advantage of the Skaven at this point, though both sides are very depleted. I mean, the Plague Monks very low on health, the Slingers and Night Runners and Gutter Runners are all very spread out. These Night Runners very low on ammunition, and the Assassin, actually, I look away and he's already routing these Chaos Spawn, doing a number on him. As Morgar is just kind of refusing to just go down to that Assassin, who is generally a very dedicated melee combatant there for Lords and Heroes, but last not doing so hot against Morgar. Skaven able to at least temporarily shut down these Ungor Raiders, though they will be broken down because there's just so much Senegors and the Razorgore herds. They'll break down those Gutter Runners fairly quickly, and these Ungor Raiders are now kind of free to fire in themselves. So we do have the Wolf Rats with Poison going to be jumping on that opportunity, though the Senegor is going to get a nice little counter charge in the meantime, and these Wolf Rats should pull out now because they don't want to get cut up by these Chaos Spawn, and they will quickly get melted down. They were able to rout these Ungor Raiders and pull out just in the nick of time, but they'd still rout regardless. That they should be able to come back. They're far enough away from the edge of the map in this case. And Balance of Power actually now starting to go into the Beastmen favor, as that mobility, and yeah, as Alastrity is saying, the summons has been taken out of the picture from that Plague Priest, and the Assassin was routing, and I believe is being chased off by these Harpies off to the side, so losing that character, I don't think that the Skaven can even kill Morgar. Some of the Night Runners might have enough ammunition to do enough damage. These Gutter Runners are trying to kite away from Morgar, but all of these Chaos Spawn as well. You have to deal with the Chaos Spawn, Morgar. There's still Senegors, and I believe there are some Razorgore herds as well, though they are all low ammo. Eshin Triads returning just in the last second to save themselves there, but yeah, Evan Starr is going to pull out of this one, realizing that he just kind of lost all the tools that he could deal with. I think like losing that Plague Priest to that Manticore summon, which I did kind of miss early on, but yeah, he got taken out by that. That Assassin just couldn't deal any damage to Morgar, and yeah, just too much for the Skaven to deal with. I think they had the tools to deal with it, just maybe not played exactly, maybe a little bit too spread out there, because that map, or the match, just kind of really fanned out over the course of that battle, routing units left, right, and center. But a very fun match because of just how much was going on all over the course of the match. Yeah, Wolf Rats doing quite well. Nanny Boo Boos did not do quite so well. They got some good shots into Senegors early on, but the Harpies did quite well in shutting them down, getting 1,000 value for themselves. And yeah, the Spawn providing a very nice anchor in that late game, especially something that's a little too much for that Skaven to deal with. But a very fun match indeed, and that will even up the series to a 1-1. Yeah, Beastmen have their matchups where they can do well in. There's certain matchups where it's just quite not. And there we go. Map set. So now it is time for Chosen One for his picks. Alright, and he's going to be going Greenskins, banning Lizardmen. Another strong faction. So we'll update our current games roster here. So you have Greenskins, banning Lizardmen, and for Evan Starr, his pick, looking like it's going to be Dark Elves here, and they do have a decent matchup against the Greenskins. A lot of armor-piercing missiles that can go, like, pretty much making Stone Trolls not as ideal as it is against most matchups. Just waiting on Evan Starr to confirm his pick, but it is looking like he's looking at Dark Elves at least. Potentially Tomb Kings, which is generally my favored pick into Greenskins with the factions that I generally play. Pretty much most of the undead factions do decently into the Greenskins. Just the general low leadership, lots of sources of fear and terror for those factions. Or potentially Coast, which is one of Evan Starr's mains. I think Dark Elves definitely have their matchups that they can do well in. So Starr is going to go Tomb Kings, though. Definitely would have been my pick as well. Yeah, David, the Beastmen and Chaos definitely need to get a rework of some kind. It just kind of is when that's going to happen is going to be the question. It's very possible that they just save all of the Chaos races, so that would include Norska until Game 3. Though I think Beastmen need it more than Chaos, but I think both, I mean, Chaos, Norska, and Beastmen, well, Norska is still quite good right now. It is really a one-dimensional faction that is what they have can do quite well, but they are very predictable, and that's, I think, is kind of one of their cruxes. And he banned a Lizardman. All right, so Starr is ready to go. Yeah, the Lord of Variety is very, very slim. You have Wulfric, you have a Chieftain, who is basically discount Wulfric without Seafang, and then you have Throg. And they rely pretty much solely on heroes for their casting. If they do have it's not necessarily like a Norska specific character, I suppose. There's definitely like characters in that area who you could definitely add to that, and I would love to see more Norscan variety. I think that's kind of what generally makes factions stronger, is having different options to do things. So Chosen One is ready, so let's get on with it. Yeah, we'll see if we see the Dawi here. I don't think either side really would main them, but they definitely do have their uses. Even if you're not super familiar with Dawi, you can definitely play them rather well against certain matchups where they're just super good. Yeah, Brett hasn't really been touched for a while, I don't think. They had a little bit of an update, but not too much of one. Alright, so here are the armies. So for Chosen One's greenskins, we have double Black Orc Big Boss. Actually, I do remember playing against, I think it was Chosen One, again, as Tomb Kings. And yeah, he did bring the double Black Orc Big Boss because that's pretty much double the leadership. So while the Tomb Kings can actually focus down one of them fairly effectively, and 4 Stone Trolls. And yeah, while they can focus down one Black Orc, having 2 is really hard to deal with both of them. Having all of that immunopsychology for those Stone Trolls. And we do have a Goblin Great Shaman up on a horse. It can be seen a pretty low profile, as it does have Vindictive Glare, looking to potentially snipe out any of the artillery that the Tomb Kings can bring. We have Itchy Nuisance as well for that base weapon damage and melee attack reduction. And we have Don't Even Try It for those single character damage spells. We have some Savage Orcs, Orc Boys for that front line. On the flanks, more Orc Boys, and mobility-wise, we have Goblin Spider Riders getting a little bit of poison onto the field, always nice to have. And for a Vanguard, we do have some Goblin Wolf Rider Archers for just a little bit of pressure to be pushed into the Tomb King forces. And for the Tomb Kings, cutting through the cliffside there, we do have a bit of mobility themselves, as they do have Skeleton Chariots, as well as a pair of Nehekron Horsemen with a pair of Skeleton Horsemen Archers. And with what the Greenskins have for skirmish, they should do quite well, even though the Goblin Wolf Riders are generally a little hard to deal with. 2 of the Skeleton Archers can do quite well. And especially with the Necron Horsemen should do as well indeed. We also have Necropolis Knights with halberds to help punch through that Stone Troll formation, but only one of them I don't think is going to be quite enough to deal with that. We have a Lich Priest of Death going to be bringing Spirit Leech, and I believe that is aspect of the Doom and Darkness would be expected, as well as the Nephira's Scroll of Mighty Incantations, so it gives a nice little buff to power reserves and recharge rate depending on how many units are around it when it is activated. And we do have a Screaming Skull Catapult off to the side, trying to use this rock formation as a little bit of cover. Though with this map, it would be fairly, if the Greenskins did bring some artillery, it wouldn't be too hard to hit that, especially with their arcs of fire. Some Skeleton Warriors, Tomb Guards mixed in as well for a little bit of better front line, just a couple of those. And we have a Tomb King. We don't see Cetra today, just a Tomb King on his War Sphinx. Going to be providing a little bit of extra support on that front line, and I believe he just has his is it the curse? No, my will be done, so +5 melee attack and melee defense to his surrounding forces. So as we get started off, the Screaming Skull is going to start firing in. Yes, this is the Bay of Corsairs Inland Viking. So we have the Forest Goblin Spider Rats going to be pushing forward, and going to be pressuring off these Skeleton Horse Archers, allowing their own Goblin Wolf Rider Archers to get a little bit more return fire in. So we have one of these Orc Boys going to be looking to provide a little sneaky surround off onto those Screaming Skull Catapults. Trying to get on top of them and shut them down as quickly as they can, because they can do quite a bit of damage to the infantry, giving that extra leadership debuff to be quite a pain for them to deal with indeed. So far, they have taken just a little bit of damage. I might have missed a Vindictive Glare going down, but that was some nice shots into this kind of blob of units right here, getting a lot of those Forest Goblin Spider Riders, as well as those Savage Orcs kind of caught up in those shots, doing some kind of nice splash damage there. And the Greenskin's going to look to try and close that distance. Now, for the Tomb Kings, I don't know how much they have to effectively deal with these Stone Trolls. I think they're going to try and really hope for that Doom and Darkness to do a lot of that heavy lifting. They do have the Necropolis Knights with halberds, so I don't know if that's going to be quite enough to really deal with things here. We do have some of the Forest Goblin Spider Riders getting quickly pushed off by these Necron Horsemen. Orc Boys dealing some damage in return, but overall that was a very nice trade for the Tomb Kings in that regard. And this is one of Starr's better factions, so I expect him to be playing quite well with them. These Chariots doing quite well at intercepting those Orc Boys, seeing exactly what was up there. Goblin Great Shaman looking to kind of come in, help break that. So now a nice frontal engagement across the board, though, for the Greenskins. I'm sure the wall should be getting up. Actually, yeah, you can see it here. It is getting up about halfway as we get a nice little retreat by these Necropolis Knights as the Tomb Guard do come in to take their place. But yeah, those Stone Trolls going to be quite a problem for them to deal with, and these Stone Trolls just wailing on that Tomb King. I swear I'm going to be calling him Cetra at some point here, but that Tomb King taking a decent amount of damage from those Stone Trolls, and with all the Stone Trolls and Black Orcs across the board, it's going to be very hard breaking that core of regenerating very powerful units with a lot of armor. The Orc Boys have returned to the field shortly after routing on that flank, but they should be able to get into the rear here. Dactyr, I shouldn't be using the color bind setting. It would be interesting if I was. The Stone Trolls quickly making quick work of those Skeleton Warriors, and even these Tomb Guard are falling very quickly to the Stone Trolls and Black Orc Big Boss. And despite the fact that the balance power is quite even, the Wah has gone off. This Tomb Guard is quite healthy, and dealing though with these Necropolis Knights with halberds, and these Screaming Skulls have been able to fire in pretty consistently throughout. And it's going quite well, though we do have some of the Stone Trolls breaking off one at a time. Yeah, that Tomb King taking a decent amount of damage, and without the Lore of Nehekara, there isn't really any healing other than the Tomb King's just generic healing that they get, because now they do get their Ushabti summon and a nice little assistance to these Necron Horsemen on top of these Stone Trolls. That's generally why I bring Ushabti, melee Ushabti anyways, is dealing with Stone Trolls. They do have quite decent armor piercing. Maybe not the best in terms of against monstrous units, but the armor piercing is very, very helpful to deal with things. Though the Necropolis Knights seem to be doing quite well against the Stone Trolls, breaking them off one at a time. as another unit does rout, and these chariots and the Necron Horsemen doing quite well at chasing everything off now that they've kind of dealt I guess a decent damage to the mobility of the greenskins, because the Forest Goblin Spider Riders aren't going to be able to contend with those Necron Horsemen. So if those Necron Horsemen want to chase something off, they're pretty much going to have access to do that. And this Black Orc Big Boss just not quite enough to hold this unit in, though that Black Orc Big Boss can do quite a bit of damage to that Tomb King as well. But you can just see these Stone Trolls shattering over here, and they had 7 models left. And yeah, things not looking so good for the greenskins, as the just the tenacity of the Tomb Kings are just holding on to the bitter end, and like these Necropolis Knights with halberds. It'll be very interesting to see the value they have at the end of this game, because I think that's going to be very, very impressive indeed. The Lich Priest, I have heard the Doom and Darkness go off a few times, and that is, especially with Stone Trolls, even with these Black Orc Big Bosses supporting, has not been enough to keep them in that fight. And it's interesting how these Screaming Skulls have been accurate, because when I use them, they're not necessarily as accurate as they sometimes can. Sometimes you need multiple Screaming Skulls to even get hits on a single unit. But so far, the RNG has been good for Starr in this matchup. I mean, the Oshopti do have fear, and with the Screaming Skull firing in and a nice Vindictive Glare as well, trying to snipe out that Tomb King. Because if you look at what the greenskins have left, they almost need stuff to return, because these 2 Black Orc Big Bosses going to be fairly hard to carry the game here, especially with, I mean, the Tomb King cycling in and out. These Necropolis Knights will do quite well, because otherwise, yeah, pretty much everything is doing quite well against the greenskins. Stone Trolls, I think, are all off the map at this point. The Skeleton Chariots doing quite well at chasing them down. And yeah, I mean, that is the crux of the Stone Trolls, and every troll for that instance is that general low leadership, which is why you usually see the Black Orc Big Bosses with them, but that leadership just wasn't enough to hold them back. This Goblin Great Shaman getting surrounded by the Skeleton Horse Archers, and even that Lich Priest able to keep them down, but still just not quite enough to... Well, he does actually keep his leadership for the time being, now that these 2 Black Orc Big Bosses are in. And these Screaming Skull Catapult looking to try and snipe out these Black Orc Big Bosses here. But yeah, Viking, I totally agree. The Stone Trolls got chased off very, very well, because that's one of the big problems. It looks like things kind of broke down. We're still moving a little bit, very slowly, but we are keep going. And... but yeah, Screaming Skulls... I mean, yeah, generally the larger target it is, the easier it is to hit them, or more condensed infantry, I think generally allows them to hit more accurately. Because I know against, like, in like the Skaven matchup, Jezzails, I've had terrible luck at shooting at Jezzails with them, but they've done quite well, been able to stay online for the entire match, not even losing a single artillery piece. And yeah, this is going to be a Tomb King victory without a doubt. Expertly chasing done by the Starr's forces here. The mobility definitely was in his advantage there. I'm trying to think what the greenskins could have done, unless he was expecting more of a melee rush from the Tomb Kings. But yeah, the Screaming Skulls now fully out of ammunition. Definitely, we're probably doing a little bit more friendly fire than anything else. I don't think that's going to matter too much. Though, I mean, as long as the Tomb King stays out of these engagements, I don't think these Black Orc Big Bosses are going to be able to carry this in this late game. Should have some Spirit Leeches left, I think, from the Lich Priest. Yeah, it does look like that is going to be actually a Doom and Darkness. I think maybe a little early cast it. It might be able to break this one. But I think that was a little early on the cast, though. There is, I think, army losses. That nice charge in there will break them both, and the Tomb Kings will take it. So yeah, Shetland Apache, this is the final. So Starr is going to take the lead to 2-1, and we do have some more matches lined up. So we'll take a look at the end result. And yes, the Necropolis Knights did quite well indeed, 1700, pretty much doing quite a good work against the Stone Trolls. And if you look at the Stone Trolls, they didn't do necessarily terrible, but they definitely didn't live up to their what they could have been doing. Same with those Black Orc Big Bosses. Just across the board, they just weren't able to... Like, initially, I thought that the Tomb Kings wouldn't have had the tools to deal with 4 units of Stone Trolls, but the leadership that Doom and Darkness really provided a ton of value and all of this mobility, able to chase off those stone trolls. Screaming Skull as well, getting 1200 in value, more than paying for itself. And even though these Nacron Horsemen only had like 800, 300, they chased off all those stone trolls, providing much more value than what those values are going to say. And yes, Screaming Skull, 1237. Quite good indeed. And yes, leadership, like the leadership and the chasing, I think did much more damage than you would expect from pretty much anything else. So yeah, Chosen One expecting Casket or Archon to make his build work. Very good build though, and so we'll take a look at what the next map is. Next map should be Karak Bufdar. Yeah, and that catapult in combination with those Doom and Darknesses did a ton of very, very good work against those stone trolls. It was more than what those Black Orcs could substitute in terms of their leadership buffs. So very nice work by Evan Starr. Very well thought out build. All right. Well, we'll see, Caligar, if we do get a Dowie pick here. Though if I were going to bet, I'd say no, unless Evan Starr takes a faction that is... he doesn't ban Dowie. That's kind of, I think, the only time where we're going to see that, because it is going to be VC banning Bretonnia for Evan Starr. So again, another faction he is very strong with. He does quite a lot of good work with VC. And yes, he's going to be banning Bretonnia, which is an interesting ban, I believe. Hey, David Vercassi, welcome. Thanks for the sub. First time that's popped up on stream. So let's see, we do have, our next match should be starting fairly soon. Yeah, we'll see if Chosen One goes Wood Elves. But that's a good point, Alacrity. There's no Dark Elf, Wood Elf, or High Elf ban. The Elves are not kind to the Counts. Though High Elves, it's not as bad. It can definitely be won there. Dark Elves is such a rough match. It is single ban. It is a best of 5. But Evan Starr must be feeling fairly confident because, I mean, so far Chosen One's picks haven't been anything that would directly counter the Counts. He's picked Greenskins, Beastmen, and Empire so far. And he did ban High Elves last round, or so we'll see how this one shakes out. Now, a Dark Elf, in my opinion, is the worst matchup. Well, the Wood Elves may be getting a little close there, but Dark Elves I think is still very, very bad. Pick what J Phoenix wants to see it. He wants to see how, just prove how bad it is. Chosen One is going to be going High Elves, though. Probably the lesser of the evils for the Counts. Oops, wrong one. There it is. I want to say Evan Starr has played Counts versus Wood Elves recently, but I can't remember in which tournament it was. Start another fight. Start the conversation all over again with the Ariel. All right, let's update. And then Chosen One responded with High Elves. All right. Yep, Donut 6. The Dawi did quite well yesterday. Very well indeed. Yumai's did very well against some very difficult opponents. But alas, it was Skaven and Dawi in the final. And that was very unfortunate for him. Probably one of the worst matchups for the Dawi. All right. Looks like Chosen One is ready to go. Just waiting on Evan Starr. Yep, the Dawi did pull off one game against the Skaven though, so that was a good consolation. I was kind of expecting it to be close victories for the Skaven in all the first two matches, but did quite well. So both sides are ready, and let's roll on into that. All right, loading on in. So High Elves can probably take this a couple different ways. You can go either Phoenix Box, or you can go Air Goon Squad. Or kind of a combination of both. I think like against counts, or like as counts, if you go air, you gotta go all in or none at all. Unless you have enough support from the ground to compensate for it. I think the Dawi definitely got better versus Beastmen. Yeah, the mass problem, I think, is like the Dawi mass is really considerable. It's really hard to push through, and if you get stuck by them, good luck. So, for the High Elves of Chosen One, let's see what we've got. So we have a couple of Rangers in the front line, Lothern Seaguard, as well as just some Sisters of Avalorn, which have a ton of damage output, considering they do fire and magic damage. So against any Ethereal, so against any, pretty much any undead character, it's going to do a lot of damage in that regards. And then we just have Spearmen for that front line, so we're not seeing any super elite box. We do have double Noble on horseback, as well as Teclis on his horse, bringing a Bound Fiery Convocation. He does have the Sword of Teclis, giving himself some nice power regen, Potion of Koroi, and he does have Regrowth, Enfeebling Foe, and a Net of Amnatoc to really allow those Sisters of Avalorn to really do quite well. Now, for Evan Starr's build, we have Black Knights and a couple of Blood Knights as well, with double Black Coaches, really expecting to have to break through that blob of potentially Phoenix Guard. It's going to be a little easier for him with Spearmen. Frontline is going to be Crypt Ghouls, we have Skeleton Warriors, Zombies, and we do have some Grave Guard with great weapons to kind of punch through that. This unit's going to be a little bit wasted. We're not going to be seeing any elite troops. We don't see any Silverin or Phoenix Guard in this matchup, and then just some more Crypt Ghouls. We do have a Red Duke, actually, a very interesting pick, not one you see very often, considering the Blood Dragon is so much better in regards with the Helm of Discord. But he's going to be bringing Invocation of Nehek, Raise Dead. He has Foe Seeker, the Potion of Strength, and Elsif. So Potion of Strength and Elsif is very strong because it reduces melee defense by 40, physical resistance by 22, and speed by 48. A very much a sniper character. And we do have some Felbats, or at least one Felbat in the sky, to just help chase things off if needed. Otherwise, probably doesn't want to get too close to all these archers, but we'll see how things go, because it's a little different high elf build than what you would maybe expect. I haven't really played this matchup in so long because I avoid it at all costs. Yeah, we'll see just how well. Yeah, Alacrity, no Lari air spam, which is definitely formidable, and I think against this build it would have been very dangerous because the Red Duke on his Hellsteed not exactly going to be contending Ariel and anything up in the sky. He wouldn't have had enough support really to help deal with things. It's not the Von Karstein Lord, and it's not on a dragon either. But we'll see how the things go. As things are, I think the Counts definitely have a very good potential to do well, because they have a lot of mobility to help get into those backline. They need to shut down those Sisters of Avalorn, and if they shut those down, they can do quite well. I mean, there's a lot of other archers, but those two units are probably the biggest threat on the field. We do have Teclis and the two nobles, which are kind of a deterrent for the Red Duke trying to snipe out any of the characters, but Teclis still needs to be quite wary of that Red Duke up in the sky, and especially of a Net and Sisters of Avalorn. And the Sisters of Avalorn seemingly to be on fire at will, wasting shots into zombies right now. Definitely not something you want to be seeing right now. Don't want to be wasting that. And here is that Net, and the Sisters of Avalorn are all focusing down the Red Duke. And someone goes down trying to shut down at least one of the Lothern Seaguard, but he is taking quite a bit of damage. He has Invocation of Heck already popped on top of him. Bowseeker trying to withstand that damage, and he did actually tank that damage a lot better than maybe you would expect. I thought he was going to get absolutely nuked there from the two Sisters of Avalorn turning and firing, but the Black Coats getting on top of the Sisters of Avalorn, exactly what he needs to do. A nice charge by these Black Knights into the rear of these Rangers, and getting onto the Sisters of Avalorn. Crypt Ghouls getting onto the Spearmen should make quick work of them. Things looking pretty decently for the Vampire Counts here, as the Sisters of Avalorn are quickly shut down on all fronts, really. The Black Knights are starting to waver a bit as these two nobles are getting in, but in come the Blood Knights getting a nice charge in. And, man, yeah, actually things going quite well. I attempted Bound Fiery Convocation, missing those Crypt Ghouls. But yeah, things looking very good for the Count so far. Balance power very much in their favor, shutting down all the Sisters of Avalorn, very expensive units, keeping them off the field so quickly. Elsif are actually Potion of Strength is on the Red Duke, and I believe Elsif must have been on Teclis earlier on, because he's doing a good amount of damage now. Both of the nobles are away from Teclis right now, so they don't provide any of that support. Well, at least one of them is kind of close by, but one of the black coaches already taken down, kind of from that mass problem they got stuck in with the Lothern Seaguard. Noble really did a number on that, though the other one is still alive and well. The Red Duke pulling out of this engagement, seeing that both of the nobles are there, and the other Black Coach might follow in its brother's footsteps, as it does kind of get caught up in these Lothern Seaguard, and it might die very close to its brethren, and it is caught in. But the Red Duke jumping down onto the battle once again. Teclis does have his regrowth on him, trying to keep him alive, but he is wavering bit by bit, and an overcasted net of Amnatok to allow him to pull off. But these Black Knights are still keeping him bogged down to zombie summon. Does go down to keep him engaged even longer, though they do get caught in that net with that charge, though it doesn't really matter. It's mostly trying to keep that mass. So good heads up by Evan Starr there to keep Teclis in, but yeah, Teclis is now at full HP from that regrowth. However, now he is at his healing cap, so he can't afford to get caught out anymore, and I'm sure he would have liked to use that regrowth on probably one of the nobles instead, but by necessity he had to use it on himself. One of the Sisters of Avalorn is back up and running. The other one is going to be chased off by bats very quickly. Now these Blood Knights may instead want to focus down those Sisters of Avalorn, very important target to deal with, but instead they're going to go for a nice surround off onto this little blob of units here. Teclis, both of the nobles, some spearmen, as the Red Duke does pull up into the sky. Looking to once again get on top of Teclis. A nice charge there, getting a nice solid hit, knocking Teclis down, and things definitely looking very, very good for the for Evan Starr here, as his mobility has really shut things down. And I think the High Elves, they really needed more elite units here to hold back the tide, because they just got broken down so quickly. They left too many holes in their formation, allowing Black Knights, the Black Coaches, everything to get onto the Sisters of Avalorn, and unfortunately the Sisters of Avalorn, that initial shots onto the Red Duke just did not land. And yeah, the Counts pulling off a very nice win here against the High Elves, giving Evan Starr the 3-1 win. Very, very good stuff indeed. So that will make Evan Starr the victor of this qualifier. He will join Prussian Prince as one of the Mortarchs for our final, and Blood Knights doing quite well. Black Coaches, one did quite well, the other one got caught out early on, but yeah, the mobility I think was very, very keen, and the Red Duke with his sniping ability on Teclis did quite well. Sisters of Avalorn, unfortunate for them, still doing work, but definitely not paying for themselves. But well played by Evan Starr. Well played indeed. Chosen one and not liking the counts. One bit. Well played to Evan Starr as he does take the win. Definitely probably getting quite late for him as we update the bracket. Evan Starr moving on, and he will take the second slot for our final. So yeah, very well played to everyone that played today. Some very fun matches, lots of back and forth throughout. Some very good series, and if you have played in the tournament today, and if you have some replays that you want me to cast at a later date, be sure to drop them off in the Discord. There's a Discord link on my YouTube channel. You should be able to find it there if you aren't already part of it. That's where I'll send all of the news on upcoming tournaments, and any videos that I post will be a little notification for you all there. Otherwise, that is all I have for you today. I don't think there's anything else that I have to touch on unless anyone else has any comments they wish to add. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap up the stream. And again, thank you all for joining. And yeah, definitely stay tuned for our next qualifier. Probably won't be for maybe 2, possibly 3 weeks, depending on how the schedules line up. I know next weekend's not going to happen with the holidays and all that stuff, but it should be coming after the first of the year for sure. Stupid OP counts, but it was a fun match, very fun match, and I hope to see all of you participate here again. Lots of fun matches, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more in the future qualifiers. And with that, I will bid you all adieu. Hope you all enjoyed the stream and all the matches that we had, and as always,